The moment our main character's eyes snap open after a brutal hit and run, a devastating reality check hits him like a freight train. He glances down and his blood runs entirely cold. Both of his legs are just gone. Right beside the hospital bed, his little sister is practically crying tears of joy seeing him awake, but she didn't come alone. Lurking right behind her is the ultimate snake, Alexander, our guy's former best friend and business partner. This backstabber casually strolls in holding a fruit basket, flashing a warm smile that is nothing but a sickening illusion. Behind that mask, he is the mastermind who orchestrated the entire bloody crash. His master plan: exploit our boy's crippled state and hijack his entire company. The nightmare only spirals out of control when Alexander violently backs his sister into a corner, forcing her into a twisted marriage. He feeds her lies about securing her brother's future. Saul screams his lungs out, begging her not to trust this absolute monster. But Alexander completely shuts him down, coldly smirking as he whispers that nobody cares about the pathetic barking of a cripple. After that, the villain ruthlessly strips away everything Saul ever owned. The betrayal leaves our main character utterly shattered, rotting away in a run-down, filthy apartment with $0 to his name. But just when all hope seems lost to the abyss, a revolutionary virtual reality game called Divine Path drops out of nowhere. The most insane part: this isn't just a game. Players can actually manifest their in-game powers right here in the real world. For Saul, this glitch in reality feels like the ultimate cheat code to rewrite his tragic fate. There is just one massive roadblock. He is dead broke. Without a single penny to his name, he cannot grind for decent gear or level up his stats. Every single time he logs in, low-level trash mobs effortlessly wipe him out. Meanwhile, across the city, Alexander is flexing his stolen fortune to completely break the game system. He buys out the rarest legendary items and maxes out his stats, evolving into an unstoppable god-tier player. Every ounce of glory and power that rightfully belonged to our main character is spoon-fed to that greedy snake. Driven to absolute madness by the unfairness of it all, Saul cooks up a lethal final plan. He lures the bastard to his dump of an apartment, setting up a deadly trap. Surprisingly, Alexander actually takes the bait and shows up. The second he steps inside, he starts trash-talking Saul's pathetic living conditions. He immediately spots the heavy explosives rigged to the walls, but the villain does not even flinch. He just stands there smirking, completely confident that mere mortal weapons cannot scratch him. With nothing left to lose, Saul slams the detonator. A massive fireball violently rips through the building, reducing everything to pure ash. Our boy is left bleeding out beneath the rubble, gasping for his final breaths. But the sight waiting for him in the smoke leaves him paralyzed with shock. Alexander is still standing there, without a single scratch on him. The traitor casually dusts off his suit, laughing at the pathetic suicide mission. Thanks to his overpowered real-world stats from Divine Path, that massive blast could not even singe a single hair on his arrogant head. Just before delivering the finishing blow, he drops a sickening truth bomb. He ordered the hit and run, and he is the one who butchered Saul's parents. As the darkness takes him, our hero dies with one burning vow. He will drag that monster straight to hell. But then the system glitches. Against all laws of reality, his eyes snap open exactly 1 year before the explosion. He has absolutely no clue how he regressed, but the mission is crystal clear. He is going to make Alexander pay in blood. There is just one brutal reality check, though. He regressed to right after the crash, meaning his legs are already gone. His only ticket to vengeance is the upcoming launch of Divine Path, the virtual reality system that is about to flip the universe upside down. From his past life memories, he knows it takes exactly 1 month before humanity realizes that in-game stats actually bleed into the real world. That gives him a massive head start. Plus, his bank accounts have not been frozen yet, so it is time to speedrun this setup. His sister catches the intense fire in his eyes and frantically asks if he is hurting. He shakes his head, claiming they have a much bigger mission to handle. Completely lost, she reaches for the nurse call button, but he grabs her hand, ordering her to help him purchase a top-tier gaming pod for Divine Path. The poor girl stares at him like his brain just short-circuited. Right on cue, the hospital door swings open. Alexander struts in, wearing a sickeningly fake mask of concern, mocking his so-called brother for suddenly geeking out over video games. He acts perfectly innocent, hiding the fact that he literally ordered the hit. The snake even has the nerve to lecture him about gaming addiction, throwing shade about how someone needs to manage their multi-million-dollar company. Saul instantly catches the toxic venom behind those words, but instead of exploding, he casually plays right into the villain's hands. He coldly replies that, since he is permanently benched, he might as well waste his life away in virtual reality. Alexander flashes a dark, arrogant grin, pointing out that Divine Path drops soon, but the elite gaming capsules cost a staggering $300 million. Without blinking twice, Saul tells him to charge it. The company vault belongs to him, and even if that legendary hardware cost $30 billion, he would buy it in a heartbeat. His panicked sister tries to calm him down, but Alexander, slithering into the conversation like a venomous snake, he puts on a sickeningly sweet voice. He generously offers to buy the gaming gear for him. He promises to handle the company's affairs while Saul heals up, but then his true colors show. With a skin-crawling smirk, he pulls Saul's little sister close. He casually drops that they will be spending way more time together. Saul's polite smile instantly shatters into pure ice. Without missing a beat, he snatches his sister back to his side. He coldly declares she is staying right here. Taking the hint, Alexander finally dips out of the hospital room. But the second that door clicks, shut, Alexander's mask drops. His face contorts into pure, unfiltered rage. He viciously curses out the trash-tier assassin. The absolute failure could not even finish a simple hit. He spits out a venomous promise. Next time he is bringing a literal tank. Saul's days are officially numbered. Back in the safety of the room, Saul drops a massive bombshell. He orders his sister to liquidate everything. Every single cent of the company's funds must be converted into in-game currency. Sell all the shares immediately. She completely freaks out. Has her brother actually lost his damn mind? But Saul just stares into her eyes. He begs her to trust his vision. He is about to rewrite their entire destiny. Just 3 hours later, the state-of-the-art gaming pod touches down. He literally burned an extra $200 million just to bypass the waitlist for instant delivery. The moment the system boots up, a massive rush of nostalgia hits his veins. Pure, unadulterated adrenaline. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, the invisible chains shatter. Inside this digital universe, he can actually stand again. The AI chimes in with a robotic welcome. The prompt demands a player ID. No hiding behind a fake alias this time. He locks in his real identity, Saul Banstralen. Character creation confirmed. Massive holograms of different classes materialize around him. It gives him crazy déjà vu. Everything is a perfect mirror of his past life. He sticks to his bread and butter, the path he already mastered, to perfection, the scout class, thanks to his premium status. The system blesses him with an insane starting perk, a pure elven bloodline. This cheat code will make gaining affinity with the forest dwellers a total breeze, and the VIP treatment does not stop there. A glowing skill book drops into his inventory. Boom! Weakness detection unlocked right off the bat. A crazy laugh escapes his lips. His heart pounds like a war drum, staring at the exact same loadout he used to slaughter his enemies back in the day. Suddenly, a golden system notification flashes. Since he is in the top 100 pioneers of the server, an exclusive offer pops up. A legendary blind box containing a god-tier talent. But the paywall is absolutely brutal. 50 million gold coins. That translates to a brain-melting $500 million in the real world. Saul lets out a low whistle at the sheer audacity, but his finger smashes the buy button without hesitation. He knows the dark truth. Cash is about to become worthless toilet paper, but exclusive talents, those are priceless artifacts. During his first playthrough, just a basic bleed-stacking passive turned him into an absolute menace on the battlefield, winning him countless impossible wars. So he dumps his entire fortune into the system. The interface erupts in blinding gold. A colossal pillar of holy light blasts straight into the digital heavens. Saul's jaw practically hits the floor. The system chimes with a world-shaking announcement. The talent he just pulled. It is completely game-breaking. A divine skill that can force the evolution of literally anything. His brain short-circuits trying to process the text. He did not even know a hack like this was coded into the game. He stares at the glowing runes in absolute awe. Power of this magnitude should be locked behind an impossible boss fight, not a paywall. Pushing his shock aside, he immediately activates the full skill tree. Time to see just how broken this really is. Bam! Passive evolution unlocks. A reality-bending buff that guarantees a 100% success rate. Any piece of loot that drops instantly levels up upon pickup. Plus, there is a 5% chance to trigger a massive tier jump, but the system is not done feeding him yet. He also scores autonomous evolution, an active skill with a 24-hour cooldown, letting him force upgrade a specific item by 2 whole tiers, and if his luck is completely overpowered, a 10% chance to skyrocket it by 3 ranks. Sure, it does not directly boost his physical stats. It is strictly a gear-enhancing mechanic, but a veteran player like him instantly grasps the meta. In a world where item levels dictate survival, this cheat ability essentially makes him a walking god. He slowly lifts his hands. In a flash of digital pixels, a sleek starter gauntlet materializes over his fist. He stares down at his armor in dead silence, the gravity of the situation finally sinking in. With this power, the timeline is officially his to rewrite. Strutting through the beginner plaza, an extremely cocky smirk plays on his lips. He knows the harsh reality. Most newbies will be scraping by with trash-tier bronze gear. Meanwhile, he is about to drip himself out in full silver armor. Just picturing it gets his blood pumping. He is itching to dive into the wild. Time to massacre some mobs, scoop up the loot, and trigger those glorious evolutions. But he forces his racing heart to cool down. Strategy comes first. That 24-hour cooldown is way too precious to waste on garbage drops. Step 1. Track down an artifact with absolute god-tier potential before burning his cooldown. With his game plan locked in, he summons the main interface. The glowing portal to the battlefield rips open right in front of him. His chest is practically vibrating with anticipation. Flashing a dangerously determined smile, he whispers a single promise. It is time to shatter destiny. The view instantly warps to the beginner zone. Saul was expecting a chill, peaceful starting area, but the second his boots hit the dirt, reality hits him like a freight train. This reality hits totally different. The starting zone is already overflowing with players, and you can easily spot the pay-to-win whales from a mile away. Saul thought he had snagged the early bird advantage, but unfortunately an absolute sea of beginners is already swarming the map, ruthlessly slaughtering low-level chickens and slimes, just to grind those early stats. The beginner village has devolved into an absolute rat race, a chaotic scramble for scraps, but Saul just scoffs at the pathetic sight. Wasting time on trash mobs is practically a joke to him. His eyes are set on a much bigger prize. He needs that world-first glory, securing the ultimate reward from defeating the novice zone boss. The system aggressively flashes a bright red warning across his vision, screaming about the lethal dangers of the uncharted wilderness, but he immediately swipes it away. To crush the competition and snowball his levels, he needs to dive straight into the abyss before anyone else dares, to challenge the true apex predators. Opening his beginner inventory, a heavy sigh escapes his lips. He is stuck with absolute garbage gear. This pathetic wooden bow and paper-thin cloth armor would not even block a light breeze, let alone keep him alive past the tutorial phase. Upgrading this trash would be a massive waste of resources. He needs a game-breaking edge. That is when a wicked smirk crosses his face. His overpowered, unique trait can actually force an evolution. Wasting 0 seconds, he unleashes the skill directly onto his own body. A blinding surge of chaotic energy violently courses through his veins. A majestic, ethereal phantom of an ancient elf king materializes above him. The legendary system prompt confirms that the awakening is a flawless success. His very DNA rewrites itself into a supreme bloodline. The power spike is instantaneous. His agility skyrockets, his senses sharpen to lethal precision, and the system blesses him with a broken passive skill. Every third strike is now a guaranteed devastating critical hit. Watching his base stats absolutely explode off the charts. An arrogant grin forms on his face. The gamble totally paid off. Armed with these god-tier attributes, steamrolling this game as a solo player is going to be a walk in the park. Suddenly, a blood-curdling howl shatters the silence. Saul instantly drops his stance, scanning the dense tree line until his eyes lock onto the deadly threat. It is a vicious level 2 shadow wolf. A squad of hyped-up newbies is already closing in, screaming like maniacs about securing the rare kill. They are blinded by their desperate greed for early experience points. Meanwhile, our main character slips into the shadows behind a massive oak tree, watching the unfolding drama with absolute ice in his veins. These guys are not complete noobs. They figured out that partying up to hunt tougher monsters is the current meta strategy for rapid leveling. But these rookies are missing one fatal piece of the puzzle. They have no idea just how terrifyingly realistic this virtual reality actually is. Without warning, the party's backline mage catches a flicker of movement in their blind spot and screams a frantic warning. But time has already run out. These predators do not fight fair. They hunt in a merciless pack. In a fraction of a second, the players are completely boxed in. The beasts launch a brutal ambush, and pure pandemonium erupts. Fangs sink deep into virtual flesh, triggering the agonizing pain engine and completely traumatizing the players. Strategic formations dissolve into absolute hysterical panic. The squad realizes their fatal mistake way too late. They pushed way too far into the high-level death zone. One poor guy shrieks in terror as jaws clamp around his throat, barely gurgling out a final message that he will catch his friends. Back at the respawn point. Moments later, the entire party is wiped out. But Saul, he is ready to capitalize on their bloodbath. While the beasts are distracted, feasting on the defeated players, he smoothly draws back his bowstring from the shadows. 2 deadly projectiles slice through the air with terrifying speed, sinking perfectly into an alpha wolf's skull. That is his first glorious blood drawn in this world. The golden glow of leveling up instantly washes over him. He breaches level 2 effortlessly. The system showers him with pure energy, feeding his newly awakened elven bloodline, granting him 5 crucial stat points and securing some rare wolf meat. For a lone wolf like him, this tier 1 healing sustenance is absolute gold. But the celebration is cut short. 3 surviving predators lock onto his position, baring their bloody fangs. Calculating his new damage output, Saul just flashes a ruthless smirk. He ignites his elven agility passive, and his movement speed instantly goes into overdrive. He moves like a total blur, parkouring effortlessly across the jagged mountain cliffs, flawlessly manipulating the terrain to force the beast pack to break formation. Glancing over his shoulder with mocking eyes, He whispers that they are practically stepping on their own graves. But then the atmosphere suddenly shifts. Something feels incredibly wrong. The frenzied wolves slam on the brakes. They refuse to take another step, trembling as they stare at him from the border. A chilling system notification pops up, right in his face. He has crossed the invisible death line into the ironclad buffalo territory. The wolves instantly scatter in pure terror, knowing these level 5 juggernauts would crush them into dust. Out of nowhere, a random voice echoes from behind, blatantly flirting and calling him a total hottie. Saul pivots to find a fully geared up squad waving him down. They are aggressively trying to recruit him into their raid party. But taking one look at their dynamic, his internal alarm bells start ringing. The excessive compliments about his looks are definitely throwing up massive red flags. Their game plan is pretty obvious, though. They are looking for extra cannon fodder to farm these high-level buffaloes and exploit the experience share. But before any deals are struck, the party's arrogant mage steps up with a disgusting sneer. He scans Saul's stats and loudly mocks him for being a pathetic level 2, claiming he would just drag the whole party down to hell. Saul just blinks, heavily irritated by the sheer audacity of these clowns. Before he can even unleash a verbal beatdown, they arrogantly wave him off like a peasant. Whatever. He brushes off the disrespect with a cold shrug, sarcastically wishes them luck surviving, and turns his back on the doomed squad. As he walks away into the misty forest, the party shouts one last patronizing warning at his back. The uncharted territory up ahead is an absolute meat grinder, a pure nightmare zone where even a full squad of 4 would get instantly obliterated. One of the players actually decides to, when warned about the brutal death penalties, Saul just casually drops that he is a total noob and has literally never died in-game. So he has zero clue about the consequences. The party breaks it down for him. Dying means kissing half your gold, goodbye, trashing your gear and slicing your earned experience right down the middle. Saul listens to this horror story and does not even flinch. The guy just shrugs it off, tosses them a quick thanks, and waves goodbye like he is heading out for a stroll. Before he vanishes, the party healer speaks up. She begs to back him up, knowing a solo run is basically suicide. But the edgy mage shuts her down cold. If the kid wants to throw his life away, let him burn. Fast forward a bit, and our main character rolls up to a massive, ominous cave entrance. The second he steps inside, the vibe shifts. The entire floor is paved with crushed bones and skulls. Instead of panicking, his eyes light up. A wicked smirk creeps onto his face. Jackpot. This is exactly what he came for. Suddenly, the bone pile violently erupts. Glowing eyes snap open in the dark. It is massive, yet our guy holds his ground. He stares down the level 10 giant Snake King boss, instantly triggering his weakness detection skill. Like a video game cheat code, a glowing red target paints itself right onto the back of the monster's neck. Normally, a scrub like him would only be rocking about 200 health points, but thanks to that insane passive ability, unlocked by the Elf King's blood, he is sitting on a massive bonus of 1,000 extra health. With that kind of tankiness, soloing a boss is no longer a pipe dream. Bow drawn, he locks eyes with the beast. The viper lunges with terrifying speed, snapping its fangs right at his face. It is fast, but Saul is a blur. He weaves to the side, at the absolute last microsecond, and lets the bowstring sing. The first arrow strikes true, but only chips away 29 points of damage. Underwhelming for sure, but hey, a boss monster is still a boss monster. Saul backflips out of danger, praising his broken agility stats. The Titan hits like a truck, but it is sluggish enough for him to easily kite it around the room, slowly chipping away its health from a safe distance. He lines up another shot at the neck. Clang. The beast casually deflects the arrow with its armored tail. Reality hits him hard. This raid boss has actual artificial intelligence. It is now actively shielding the only weak spot that takes critical hits. Banking entirely on his attack speed, Saul unleashes a storm of arrows, but the giant serpent turns into an impenetrable fortress, completely neutralizing his DPS. He paces himself, waiting for the perfect window, and finally, the beast slips up. A single arrow pierces the defense, racking up 58 points of damage. But then the atmosphere shifts. The boss sucks in a massive breath, flooding the entire cavern with a highly toxic green mist. The debuff is absolutely brutal. His health bar starts melting away by 10 points every single second. Saul crunches the numbers. He is officially on a countdown timer. Making things worse, the serpent scales the cavern walls, clinging to the ceiling to make ranged attacks nearly impossible. But you cannot stop a gamer on a mission. He knocks another arrow, whispering that this overgrown worm is gravely underestimating him. The shot slices through the toxic fog, slamming into the neck, for 116 damage. This kid has straight-up protagonist luck. The massive beast plummets to the ground, taking heavy fall damage. Oh yeah, did I mention every third hit is a guaranteed crit? Saul flashes a cocky grin, daring the boss to show him what else it has got. The snake is literally sweating pixels. Realizing this player is built different, the monster's health rapidly drops to 597 points. and our guy is feeling unstoppable. Even while eating 10 points of poison damage, a second victory is in his grasp. His own health rests comfortably at 1010 points. But the giant snake refuses to roll over and die. The moment Saul tries to string another combo, he is forced to dodge devastating room-clearing tail sweeps. Once the boss realizes its physical hits keep missing, it ramps up the aggression to 100, frantically trying to interrupt his casting animation. Saul slides out of the way again, realizing that despite the AI upgrade, the beast simply cannot match his footwork. He lets another arrow rip right into the weak spot, triggering a massive 200-point critical hit. But right then, he notices a glitch in the matrix. Striking the monster's belly actually yields way higher damage numbers than hitting the neck, even though the system flagged the neck as the ultimate insta-kill zone. For a split second, his gamer brain calculates a new strategy. Target the gut, melt the boss faster. But wait, the giant reptile actually curls its lips into a sinister smile. Boom! It smashes the earth, sending a violent shockwave and a massive fissure tearing toward him. The ground completely shatters beneath him, throwing off his vision. Saul violently crashes down to his knees. Right as the toxic gas mutates, the debuff stacks now ripping away 20 health points every single second. His HP plummets to 600. Make no mistake, this raid boss was absolutely designed to slaughter an entire party of players. Between the suffocating toxic fog and the sheer cliff faces, surviving solo should be a literal 0% drop rate. With zero hesitation, he pulls wolf meat from his inventory, realizing he has to burn through his emergency stash way early. The meat triggers a massive buff healing, 20 health points per second for 20 seconds straight. It won't cleanse the poison debuff, but it buys him the one thing he desperately needs: time. The next 20 seconds will dictate his absolute survival as he launches into a dead sprint up the cavern wall. Parkouring from crumbling ledge to ledge, he scales the jagged rock face with insane speed, finally claiming the absolute high ground above the monstrous beast. Drawing his bowstring taut, he unleashes a flawless sniper shot. The giant serpent shrieks in pure, unfiltered rage, completely caught off guard by the fact this puny human is still breathing. The arrow buries itself deep inside the boss's glowing eye. The massive creature thrashes violently before crashing hard against the dungeon floor. But Saul instantly catches the serpent's cowardice, realizing the beast is trying to run. Exploiting its wide-open back, he fires a lethal shot straight into its nape. The raid boss whips its head around in absolute terror, only to see the hunter knocking another glowing elven arrow. The so-called apex predator actually starts trembling as Saul rains down an unrelenting barrage of steel, until one final devastating arrow pierces straight through its massive skull and out its jaws. The boss's towering health bar instantly shatters to zero, and the toxic miasma vanishes from the cavern in a flash. Immediately, a golden system prompt flares up, asking to broadcast his impossible achievement across the entire server. While giving him the option to mask his gamertag, Saul pauses for a split second but smirks, realizing he has played in the shadows for way too long. He commands the system to drop his name for the world to see, and in mere milliseconds, the entire global player base gets hit with a massive notification congratulating the player named Saul for claiming the world's first blood on the ultimate tutorial boss. Down in the chaotic beginner's village, the community completely loses their minds. Jaws drop as they try to process how someone just soloed a raid boss when the servers literally just went live. Toxic parties immediately start flaming their own teammates, blaming each other for being absolute garbage at leveling. Even the hardcore sweaty veteran players are left utterly speechless, their brains short-circuiting over how a nobody could execute a beast that massively outleveled them. Meanwhile, the arrogant blue-haired dude's party is fighting for their lives, gasping for air after barely taking down a basic buffalo mob. Completely delusional, they actually think they just slayed a hidden super boss. The bulky tank of the group is grinning ear to ear, hyping up whatever legendary first kill loot drop they are about to get. The other two guys are literally blushing, bragging about flexing their new stats to impress the ladies, desperately simping for praises from their gorgeous female party member. But then a second global system alert crashes their reality. Flashing across the sky, it announces Saul just bagged 1,000 reputation points and an ultra-rare silver chest. The arrogant squad's fragile egos instantly shatter, unable to comprehend that some random guy is light years ahead of their power level. Back in the boss room, an absolute tsunami of experience points washes over our hero, skyrocketing him straight from level 2 all the way to level 7. He is sitting on 30 unassigned stat points, and without hesitating, he dumps every single one directly into agility. Since for his archery class, agility is the god stat that heavily scales both movement speed and raw damage. With his stats maxed out, it is finally time to check the raid drops from the boss corpse. But that is when a total glitch in reality happens. The 10 silver coins the boss was supposed to drop mysteriously mutate into 10 glittering gold coins. To put that insane flex into perspective, those try-hard players who barely killed the buffalo, they were rewarded with exactly one pathetic copper coin. Suddenly, deep within his inventory screen, an unknown item starts pulsing with a blinding golden aura. Saul narrows his eyes, completely locked in, half expecting his second-class evolution to trigger out of nowhere. But what materializes in his palm is something he never anticipated in a million years. An ultra-rare crystal coin. This is not just premium currency. It is an extinct mythical artifact that practically vanished from the game's entire lore. Holding this masterpiece allows you to unlock hidden vendor shops, buy secret overpowered gear, or instantly max out your affinity with any NPC on the map. For our regressor main character, this is an absolutely monumental jackpot. During his tragic past life, he had only heard whispered legends about this artifact, but his eyes had never actually witnessed its glory. He knows exactly how game-breaking this tiny crystal will be and how heavily it will carry his future dominance in the later stages. Without wasting another breath, he sweeps the rest of the epic loot off the blood-stained floor and tosses it all into his spatial bag. The random number generator gods are clearly smiling down on him today, because sitting right there in his inventory is the Silver Serpent one-handed sword, flexing a base attack stat that is just disgustingly high. But his hype dies almost instantly. Since he is locked into the archer class, swinging a blade is basically useless to his build. Whatever. He knows he can easily flip this top-tier weapon on the auction house and farm a massive pile of real-world cash. But then he taps on the final loot drop, and his eyes literally ignite with pure gamer greed. Unveiling the silver-tier Azure Scale Armor, an insanely rare defensive masterpiece that almost never drops. The base stats are crazy, but this armor is loaded with a truly overpowered passive skill. The moment you enter combat, it auto-generates a massive 300-point health shield as long as its 300-second cooldown has refreshed. Saul just became practically unkillable. A memory from his past life suddenly clicks into place. The basic blue scale armor, absolute garbage with zero special effects and pathetic stat boosts. But the silver tier version, it comes equipped with a busted energy shield. That single detail skyrockets its market value. But here is the massive catch. It is strictly locked behind a level 10 requirement, and he is nowhere near that milestone yet. Talk about a massive buzzkill. Our boy just slaughtered a dungeon boss expecting an instant power spike. Instead, he is left holding gear that is essentially dead weight in his inventory. Frustration boils over as he curses. The absolute joke, that is the game's progression system. But wait. Another system notification flashes in his mind. The boss had also dropped a shiny silver treasure chest. Without wasting a single breath, he pops the lid, praying to the RNG gods that his luck turns around and he doesn't get slapped with another piece of mediocre trash. Boom, blinding light erupts from the chest, and the system blesses our hero with a brand new legendary skill. 7-star chain arrows. It drains 50 mana points upon activation, but unleashes a devastating barrage of 7 consecutive strikes at the target. The kicker, each individual arrow melts away, exactly 1% of the enemy's maximum health pool. We aren't just talking about a solid ability here. This is straight up a god-tier cheat code. It is an ultra-rare technique that only the luckiest, most elite archers ever get to touch in the entire game. But knowing Saul's twisted fate, nothing ever comes without a catch. Yep, you guessed it. Another brutal level, 10 restriction just to equip the skill. Still, a predatory grin spreads across his face. Once he finally hits that level threshold, his damage output is going to absolutely skyrocket, giving him the ultimate motivation to grind his way up the ranks as fast as humanly possible. But suddenly, a desperate noise shatters the silence. Echoing from the dark depths of the cave is a soft plea for help. Saul creeps forward, only to discover a breathtakingly beautiful woman, looking fragile and slightly bruised. She stammers that she was hiding in the shadows to escape the massive serpent. Wait a second, this is Lady Gu, a legendary NPC heavily rumored by players to hand out insanely rare hidden quests. Our hero smirks and tells her to drop the panic act. The giant snake is already dead, and he was the one who turned it into mincemeat. Instantly, Lady Gu's whole vibe shifts into pure seduction mode. She dramatically flashes her flawless, supposedly injured legs, claiming the bones are completely shattered. With a dangerously suggestive smile, she purrs that it would be absolutely amazing if he could swoop her up and carry her safely to the exit. Like any guy, totally out of his depth with a beautiful woman, Saul's ears turn bright red, but he decides to play along anyway. He scoops her into his arms and starts the long trek toward the surface. The entire walk back, Lady Gu lays the flirtation on impossibly thick. She gently traces his jawline, whispering that without her knight in shining armor, she would be dead meat. Before they part ways, she even winks and promises that next time they cross paths, she will take very, very good care of him. But those specific words instantly trigger the alarm bells ringing inside Saul's head. Without a single second of hesitation, he bails on the romance and dumps her unceremoniously onto the hard dirt. Gasping in pure shock, Lady Gu acts completely innocent, claiming that her body is her only form of currency, and she was just trying to reward him with the one thing she is truly gifted at. Saul just stares down at her with pure, unfiltered disgust, looking at her like she is completely losing her mind. Finally, he snaps at her to drop the ridiculous act, because the second-hand embarrassment is getting way too real for him to handle. Suddenly, Lady Gu's innocent persona shatters into a burst of psychotic laughter. She pulls a pitch-black crescent blade from her chest and declares that he has successfully passed her test by seeing through her dirty little illusion. But instead of playing along, Saul ruthlessly swats the legendary weapon away. Completely thrown off balance, Lady Gu glares at him. His expression turns dead serious as he turns, and demands she hand over the hidden class immediately. Lady Gu nervously tugs at his sleeve, desperately playing the ignorant victim, claiming she has no idea what he is talking about. But Saul towers over her, radiating pure villain energy, and whispers that she leaves him no choice. He casually mentions paying a little visit to her 14-year-old daughter, who lives nearby. All the color instantly drains from Lady Gu's face, absolutely horrified that this random player knows her darkest, most guarded secret. Completely broken, she finally caves in. She promises to unlock the hidden class for him. In the blink of an eye, she starts spinning with this hypnotic, unearthly grace, moving like a phantom ballerina. And just as her mesmerizing dance reaches its absolute peak, a glowing magical portal rips open right beneath our hero's boots. Everything is playing out exactly according to his master plan. Lady Gu quietly explains that the portal pulsing in front of them leads straight into the belly of the hidden class trial. If he manages to survive, the ultimate power is his for the taking. A triumphant smirk stretches across our hero's face. He even throws her a cheeky thank you, knowing he just totally outplayed the entire system. Everything was going exactly according to plan. But the woman immediately shuts him down, telling him to chill out, and not to get too ahead of himself. Right at that very second, a glowing system window flashes, right in front of his eyes. His face instantly freezes in pure horror. The Shadowhunter trial he is about to enter is locked on hard mode, and failing means permanent deletion. Simply put, there is only one way out. Clear the trial or die trying. Absolute panic sets in. He scrambles to escape, begging her to pull the plug. He is only level 7. He absolutely cannot afford a game over right now. But his leg glitches into the ground, completely trapping him, making it impossible to move. Lady Gu just stares back with a bone-chilling smirk. She coldly tells him this is exactly the ending he deserves for daring to look back, and eyeing her daughter like some kind of creep. In that split second, a terrifying realization hits him. Her affection meter has completely flatlined to 0. It finally clicks in his brain. The only way to stop this portal was by keeping those affection stats up, but he is totally out of time. The gateway is already fully charged, and there is 0 chance of escape. A heartbeat later, he gets violently yanked inside. As his body sinks deep into the glowing magic circle, he screams out a brutal vow. Once he clears this nightmare, he is hunting down Lady Gu and her daughter to end them both. But before the threat even finishes, he vanishes into the void like he just drowned in digital quicksand. Lady Gu coldly stares down at the empty space, where he disappeared, knowing his fate is permanently sealed. Cut to the next scene. A figure plummets straight out of the sky. The main character crashes down, landing on his feet in a massive, endless desert wasteland. He has 0 clue where he is. Suddenly, the system flares up again, announcing that the survival trial has officially begun. This is a do-or-die situation. He has no other choice. He has to go all out. Out of nowhere, the ground shifts violently beneath him. Before he can even process the threat, vicious claws explode from the sand all around him. The harsh reality sets in. He just walked straight into a death trap. His survival instincts kick in at the final second. He leaps into the air, just as a colossal sandworm erupts from the earth, jaws wide open to swallow him whole. Sticking the landing, he catches his breath and sweats. Is this massive beast seriously just a basic mob for this trial level? Just looking at it, the thing radiates a terrifying amount of power. Wasting no time, he instantly triggers his weakness detection skill. The monster's status window drops down. It is an elite level 5 earth sandworm, rocking an attack power of 45, a solid defense of 30, and a massive health pool of 2000 HP. But the glowing red target, its gaping mouth, acting purely on reflex, he knocks an arrow to his bow and fires a dead center shot right into that monstrous abyss. He knows it is not his most devastating attack, but right now he just needs to test the waters and gauge the damage output. Letting the arrow fly, he drops low to the ground and starts calculating his next move. These underground beasts always have a massive blind spot when surfacing. If he plays this smart and keeps his distance, farming them should be a breeze. But that confident smirk instantly vanishes. The monstrous worm violently breaches the surface again, launching a full-speed charge right at him. Our main character holds his ground until the absolute last millisecond. He barrel rolls out of the way by a literal hair. The beast smashes into the dune with such devastating force that a chilling thought crosses his mind. If that attack had actually connected, it would have been an instant one-shot kill. Surprisingly, the creature does not immediately follow up. Instead, it burrows right back into the darkness below. He instantly decodes the boss pattern. It is setting up for an ambush strike. He locks his eyes onto the shifting terrain, tracking a subtle, rapid ripple tearing through the dunes. He realizes the monster is speeding straight for his blind spot. This absolute menace of a creature is proving incredibly toxic to fight. It is almost impossible to read its underground path. It zooms through the earth at terrifying speeds, giving him less than a single second to react when it breaches. A cold sweat drips down his face. If this game of cat and mouse continues, his stamina will drain completely. He desperately needs a new battle plan. Sticking to the soft sand is a death sentence. He needs high ground, somewhere solid, to cancel out the monster's mobility. Scanning the chaotic battlefield, he spots a colossal stone pillar towering just a few yards away. Without a second thought, he bolts straight for his only lifeline. But just as his fingers graze the stone, a violent spike of sand explodes from below. He violently twists his body midair to dodge. The grotesque worm breaches yet again, completely exposing itself. Punishing the missed attack, he unleashes a quick combo, watching his EXP bar tick up just a tiny fraction. Right then, Saul finally figures out the gimmick. As long as he keeps perfectly timing his evasions, chipping away at this beast's health is honestly free EXP. But the game flips the script in a flash. Completely catching him off guard, the boss charges up its special skill. Sand Spit, a high-pressure blast, fires straight at our protagonist. He does not even have a fraction of a second to brace himself, or block his face. The grit blasts right into his eyes. His HP bar takes a nasty hit, but the damage is the least of his worries. The attack triggers a massive debuff, slapping him with a blind status effect, slashing his vision by a terrifying 50% for 10 agonizing seconds. With the stakes this high, that blinding debuff absolutely wrecks Saul's offensive momentum. He cannot believe these giant sandworms are spamming such dirty tactics, and when the pitch-black blindness kicks in, plunging him into such deep darkness that his own hands disappear, pure frustration boils over. Real panic starts creeping in, because he knows he desperately needs to reach that stone pillar, or it is game over. Right on cue, he senses another brutal dive bomb attack incoming, forcing him into a desperate dodge, just to scramble toward the sanctuary of the stone structure. Gasping for air, he finally hugs the solid rock, catching a blurry glimpse of the monster sinking back into the endless dunes. He knows he has to wrap this up fast, especially with the agonizing sting of sand still tearing at his eyes. But then a light bulb goes off in his head. During his earlier arrow barrage, those two sneaky underbelly shots hit their mark perfectly. Better yet, he can literally feel the blinding debuff timer finally ticking down to 0. The moment the curse shatters, his vision snaps back to crystal clear high definition. With his sight fully restored, he realizes the monster's attack loops are incredibly basic, and now that he has downloaded its moveset, fighting this thing is basically child's play. Wasting 0 time, he readies his bow for a deadly counterattack. He deliberately taunts the beast, and seconds later, massive tremors violently shake the earth beneath his boots. The colossal worm explodes from the ground, but Saul sidesteps the ambush with effortless swagger. Before the towering freak can unleash another sandstorm, he pivots hard and ducks behind the pillar, using it as an unbreakable shield. Peeking out, he unleashes a perfectly aimed arrow straight down its gaping maw, chunking a massive piece of its health bar. Yet he holds back from dealing the finishing blow right away, choosing to drag out the fight on his own terms. The enraged worm charges blindly again. Saul answers with a relentless storm of arrows, finally landing the fatal critical hit, and the towering beast crashes down dead. A system notification chimes, bumping him up to level 8, while 10 copper coins magically evolve into silver. He also snags a pair of sand boots, a rare gacha tier drop that heavily boosts his movement speed across the desert terrain, but his expression remains completely flat. To him, this drop rate is absolute garbage. After all, he just soloed a massive boss-level threat, and despite the juicy experience points, he is still missing that legendary silver tier loot he was praying for. Suddenly, a strange glow catches his eye. One of the ancient runes carved into the stone pillar starts pulsing with an eerie light. Looking closer, he spots 8 identical glyphs etched into the rock, with only the first one fully illuminated. The writing is literally on the wall. A massive wave of sandworms is incoming. Right on cue, the desert erupts as multiple leviathans burst from the dunes, instantly locking their aggro onto him. Saul realizes he has to wipe out every single one to clear this twisted trial. Trusting his instincts, he vaults straight up to the top of the pillar. Looking down from his new vantage point, he grins, realizing this is the ultimate experience farming spot. But he also knows touching the sand right now is pure suicide. One wrong step would trigger 7 colossal monsters to blitz him from every single angle, and tanking a coordinated attack like that would instantly melt his health bar. So he pauses to cook up a high IQ strategy. He needs to create fake seismic activity from a safe distance, baiting the beasts to surface so he can snipe them. With the master plan set, he pops open his spatial inventory and grabs a handful of spare copper change. He follows up with a few silver coins, knowing they are way too light, but he chucks them down into the pit anyway. Just as predicted, a monstrous worm breaches exactly at the impact zone, and Saul instantly punishes it with a well-timed arrow. Unfortunately, shooting straight down makes hitting its critical weak spot nearly impossible. Plus, the creature's armor stats are ridiculously high, meaning each strike only chips away a pathetic 35 points of damage. But Saul is not stressing at all. He has deep pockets and literally all the time in the world. If he has to, he is ready to camp this spot and cheese every single worm until the system declares him the absolute victor. 4 grueling hours later, the nightmare grindfest finally wraps up, and our hero lets out a massive, heavy sigh of relief. His stamina is totally wiped from the endless slaughter. Still, he takes a proud second to admire the absolute graveyard of monsters scattered below, hyped about his hardcore progression. Against all odds, he has officially smashed through the level 10 milestone, securing a massive 15 attribute points, while his mana pool expanded by a solid 30 points. Honestly, he was so deep in the zone that he totally missed the actual level up notification. But he knows he owes this insane power spike entirely to those giant sand traps. Those giants just fed him an absolutely insane amount of EXP. Staring at his shiny new attribute points, he pulls up his status window. His HP is practically scraping the 2000 mark, but a quick scan of his stats reveals a glaring issue. His RNG drops are going to be absolute garbage. Why? Because his luck stat is sitting at a big fat 0. Without a second thought, he dumps every single attribute point straight into luck, maxing it out at 15. The results are instant. Since luck governs both accuracy and evasion, his combat numbers immediately skyrocket. Right on cue, his passive evolution skill kicks in, and a massive realization hits him like a truck. Pumping everything into luck from the very beginning would have been the ultimate cheat code. This stat is totally OP. Eager to test this theory, he unleashes his passive evolution right onto one of the giant corpses. He watches in pure awe as the massive body is instantly obliterated into dust. Back in his past life, he never had the cash to flex on upgrades like this. His damage output was practically non-existent, and his health was always in the danger zone. Back then, survival meant desperately dumping every point into raw attack, and HP forcing him to miss out on the actual god-tier perks. Suddenly, a flash of memory hits him. That blinding purple light radiating from one of the bodies earlier, the universal sign of a legendary drop. His heart practically hammers out of his chest. Finally, the universe is handing him the overpowered gear he deserves. But the moment he actually inspects the glowing item, that blazing hype instantly turns to ice. It's the Sand Escape, a legendary tier skill that lets the user dive into the sand, moving completely undetected like a phantom. The catch: it only works in desert environments. For a legendary item, he honestly thinks this effect is a massive letdown. Still, he stashes it in his inventory. You never know when a stealthy ambush or a desperate escape might save his life. He bites the bullet, dropping 10 silver points to master the skill. And right after that, another notification pops up. Hitting level 10 just unlocked the ultimate prize from the silver chest. The 7-star arrow skill. He doesn't even blink before dropping another 20 silver points to claim that devastating attack. Scrolling through his inventory, he realizes the epic blue armor he snagged earlier is finally ready to be equipped. The moment the gear snaps onto his body, a wild surge of raw power courses through his veins. He is absolutely loving this feeling. Even his aura points get a massive boost, enveloping him in a glow that makes him look completely badass. Decked out in his new gear, he smirks. He's dead certain he's now the highest level player on the entire server, the ultimate apex predator. His ego is definitely inflating to dangerous levels. But before he can celebrate his absolute dominance, something breaks his focus. The massive pillar is still just standing there. The tower runes are glowing, the boss monsters are dead, and he has vacuumed up every single piece of loot. Yet there is dead silence. Nothing is happening. He was bracing for some epic explosion or maybe a cosmic boss dropping from the sky. Why is the system stalling? Then, as if the game itself heard his complaint, the ground violently rips apart. A chill races down his spine as the earthquake violently shakes the battleground, paving the way for the ultimate reveal. Straight out of a cinematic cutscene, a colossal ancient temple erupts from the depths of the earth, towering over everything. Driven by pure gamer instinct, he marches straight toward the massive doors. The real jackpot has to be hiding in there. Adrenaline floods his system. This is the perfect playground to test out his devastating new arsenal. But right before he crosses the threshold, a completely out-of-place voice shatters the atmosphere. It's his little sister yelling that his absolute favorite dinner is ready and waiting for him. Snapping back to reality, he barks at his sister, warning her to get off his gaming pod before she gets hurt. A system warning flashes aggressively across his vision. External call detected. Do you wish to log out? He instantly smashes the reject button. Logging out now means failing the quest, kissing that permanent hidden class goodbye forever. He has zero choice but to stay plugged into the virtual world, even if it means breaking his sister's heart in the real one. Sophia's voice cracks as she weakly protests, reminding him he's been completely glued to the game for 8 straight hours. She pleads with him to rest, especially since his real body is still desperately trying to recover. But the obsession has taken over. He ruthlessly snaps back at her, his harsh words finally driving her away in tears. Storming out of the room, her chest tightens with absolute sorrow. She can't stop wondering when her big brother turned into this furious, unrecognizable stranger. Deep inside the game, a heavy wave of guilt crashes over him for lashing out. But deep down, he knows the brutal truth. To reach the pinnacle of strength, sacrifices must be made. Eyes blazing with determination, he pushes forward. He activates his ghost hunter skill. Time to scan this ancient temple. He needs to know exactly what is lurking in the shadows. The moment his foot crosses the threshold, a crimson system window flashes, warning extreme danger zone ahead. The system demands absolute caution. A cold sweat drops down his neck. He just stepped straight into the boss room. The ground violently quakes, a colossal shadow blocks out the light. But when the dust settles, he almost laughs. It is a massive crab. Talk about a glitch in the Matrix. Since when do giant crustaceans spawn in the middle of a blazing desert? The system locks onto the target. Gold tier boss detected. Level 15. Title the Sand King. And it is packing a deadly special skill. Sandstorm. Our main character does not waste a single second. He immediately triggers his weakness detection ability, but the status window delivers pure despair. The Sand King's health and defense stats absolutely broken. Even with his tracking active, the boss is a walking fortress. 0 blind spots. A chilling realization hits him. For the first time ever, he is going up against a lethal monster completely blind. No cheat codes, no master plan. Before he can even process the threat, the beast explodes forward. Saul relies on pure instinct, throwing himself out of the way. He figured a monster that massive would be sluggish. He was dead wrong. The sheer shockwave of the attack sweeps him up like a rag doll. He violently slams into the cave wall, minus 100 HP. His vision blurs. That was not even a direct hit, taking that much damage from just the wind pressure. Insane. Thank the heavens for his lucky charm. But more importantly, the 300-point energy shield, granted by his newly equipped armor. If that giant claw had connected with his skull, game over. It would feel like eating a freight train head-on. He would be a bloodstain on the floor right now. Saul shakes off the dizziness and looks back. A massive crater scars the earth where the claw landed. Reality checks in, and it hits hard. These are not those weak little sandworms anymore. This is a gold-tier nightmare. Backed into a corner, he summons his bow. He knocks an arrow, pulls the string taut, and fires. The combat log freezes his blood. Minus 1 damage point. Just 1. Panic grips his chest. He was supposed to chip away at its health, but a single digit is practically a joke. The Sand King roars and charges again. Our main character barely dances around the crushing pincer and the lethal shockwave following it. His basic attacks are utterly useless here. He has exactly one advantage left: pure speed. If his feet stop moving for even a second, the next blast will obliterate him. The monster winds up for another devastating strike, and this time Saul is completely backed against the wall. 0 escape routes available. The titanic pincer smashes into the ground with meteoric force. Dust and debris fill the air. But when the smoke clears, nothing but an empty crater. Our overpowered hero did not just stand there and take it. In a split-second display of agility, he leaped up and clung right onto the beast's claw. But the Sand King is not stupid. It senses him immediately. The monster violently flicks its arm, launching Saul high into the air. Its massive, terrifying maw snaps open to catch its prey, free-falling towards certain death in the final second. Saul unleashes his 7-star chained arrows. He fires point-blank right down the creature's throat. The impact is absolutely devastating. A massive critical hit, minus nearly 1,000 HP. In a single blinding volley, the boss's health bar drops from 6,000 down to 5,100. Now we are talking. Because that strike shattered the monster's defense threshold, the armor is broken. Every hit from now on is going to stack massive bonus damage. But the pain sends the Sand King into a total berserker rage. It wildly thrashes around and swats our hero out of the sky. Saul's defensive shield shatters into 1,000,000 pixels instantly. Warning alarms blare in his mind. The gravity of this fight just multiplied. Going toe-to-toe with a gold-tier boss, with 0 shield protection, that is practically a death wish. Saul grits his teeth. One more direct hit like that might delete him from existence. He needs a new battle plan, and he needs it now. Moving like a blur, he scales the massive jagged arm of the beast. He scrambles all the way to its crown. He aims point blank, ready to unleash another devastating 7-star strike. He pulls the string back, but absolutely nothing happens. A hollow click echoes. His mana pool is completely drained. Talk about the worst possible timing. The 7-star technique might deal god-tier damage, but it devours magic power like a black hole. His current stats cannot support back-to-back shots. His brain runs the numbers in a split second. The math is absolutely terrifying. He needs a full 4 minutes just to regenerate enough mana for one more attack. But the boss is not going to wait. The colossal crab rears up on its hind legs. It launches its massive bulk directly into the air. Saul realizes the lethal intent immediately. It is going for a full body crush. Tactical retreat is his only option. He dives off the monster's shell, plummeting back toward the arena floor. He hits the sand and combat rolls to build distance. His mind races as he evades. If this giant crustacean wants to squish him into paste or launch him into the cavern ceiling, it is going to have to try a lot harder than that. But just when he thinks he has the rhythm figured out, something completely unpredictable happens. Saul snaps his head up. His detection skill finally pings with a massive revelation. The boss's critical weak spot is glowing right on its abdomen. Everything clicks into place. His passive ability was never broken or glitched. It just couldn't scan the target earlier, because that fatal flaw was completely buried beneath the crab's colossal armored shell. But before he can even strategize, blaring red system alerts flood his vision. The boss is charging up its ultimate attack. Getting caught in the blast radius means eating 100 points of damage every single second. Saul braces himself for the unknown, until the nightmare unfolds right before his eyes. Massive, violently swirling tornadoes spawn in every direction. His mind goes completely blank, and genuine terror grips his heart for the first time today. Tanking one heavy hit is manageable, but this endless damage over time is an absolute death sentence. He tries to sprint away, but his legs refuse to budge. The crushing wind pressure literally pins him down. All his skills and buffs are completely locked out, leaving him entirely defenseless with zero cover. With every agonizing tick of the clock, he bleeds out 100 experience points. As the deafening gales scream in his ears, a bone-chilling realization hits him. This apocalyptic storm might actually be his grave. Saul knows damn well that staying trapped inside this vortex will either instantly delete his character or leave him critically crippled. Refusing to go down without a fight, he draws back his bowstring and snipes a desperate arrow that chunks for 260 damage. An absolutely insane number, considering he basically fired completely blind into the storm, fighting tooth and nail just to breathe. He spits curses at the towering monster for acting so casually overpowered. The colossal boss just glares back, watching the lethal twisters close in like a cage while its own health bar steadily melts away. Several agonizing minutes later, the chaos abruptly halts. Eerie silence falls over the wasteland, and with zero signs of our main character, the giant crab looks genuinely baffled. At first glance, it seems like game over, and the monster has claimed ultimate victory. But the reality is way more epic. Saul pulled off a clutch sand escape at the exact last millisecond, diving deep underground right before impact. The second the arrogant boss drops its guard, the earth erupts, and our hero blasts out of the dirt. Without hesitating for a heartbeat, he sinks a brutal arrow straight into the beast's exposed belly, making it screech in absolute agony. Blinded by rage, the boss triggers the hurricane again, but Saul is completely unfazed this time. He spams sand escape once more, plunging into the earth and popping up behind enemy lines to unleash a barrage of arrows, shredding hundreds of health points in seconds. Pushed to the brink of despair, the boss tries to copy his swagger and burrows underground for a sneak attack. Saul just smirks at the pathetic attempt. He vanishes beneath the dunes yet again, instantly teleporting to the opposite flank. The craziest part about this skill, zero mana cost absolutely no cooldown and pure legendary status. Our boy is finally realizing just how broken this move is. This chaotic dance of death loops continuously. Saul aggressively spams the dodging mechanic, mercilessly taunting the giant crab while whittling down its health. After grueling hours of intense combat, the exhausted beast actually growls out a weak insult, calling him an imbecile. Saul freezes in shock. This terrifying monster actually has voice lines. 3 exhausting hours later, the raid is still dragging on. Our main character is running on fumes from the endless grind until a crucial cooldown finally resets. His legendary 7-star arrows are fully locked and loaded. He immediately knows it is time to wrap this up. A wicked smirk crosses his face as he stares down the crab, who is clinging to a pathetic 1,100 health points. Completely broken and battered, the boss mutters its surrender, begging for mercy in a defeated tone. The marathon boss fight has drained its life force completely. Saul casually accepts the white flag, but he is absolutely not holding back. He draws his bow and ruthlessly fires the 7-star arrow, instantly executing the Sand King and securing a massive triple level up. Moving forward, grinding levels in this game is going to be a nightmare, but bagging a staggering 13 levels in a single day is a flex of epic proportions. Saul just made server history as the first player to ever pull this off. Suddenly, a golden system prompt shatters the air in front of him, offering a legendary hidden class change, the Phantom Hunter. Our boy just chuckles at the screen. He knows damn well this wasn't random luck. He bled for this reward through pure, sweaty grinding. A blinding ethereal essence swirls around his body, Out of nowhere, a majestic elven spirit manifests, evolving right before his mesmerized eyes. In a flash of blinding light, his status officially updates to Phantom Hunter, dumping a massive 200 bonus experience points into his stats. Another shiny notification pops up instantly. Thanks to his new Phantom Hunter passive, every single time he levels up now, he will score 7 free attribute points to distribute completely, replacing the basic 5. The main character grins from ear to ear. Snagging 2 extra stat points per level is genuinely broken. But the system isn't done blessing him yet. He also unlocks a fresh set of overpowered skills. The first ability is Phantom Summon, letting him conjure a badass combat spirit to fight alongside him for 30 seconds. This phantom duplicate inherits every single one of his attack buffs and can even cast its own destructive magic. Right alongside his phantom, his second newly unlocked skill is Death Trap, granting him the power to plant invisible, lethal snares right beneath his enemy's feet. Any poor soul caught in this unseen web takes a devastating 100% bonus damage. At first glance, these two abilities might look like standard issue garbage, but Saul is built different. He instantly calculates their terrifying world-breaking potential once they level up. If he stacks that 100% damage spike from Death Trap with the relentless strikes of his Phantom, the resulting combo wouldn't just be devastating, it would be a guaranteed one-shot kill. Our boy's mind races, visualizing the absolute chaos he could unleash, the second he manages to evolve that spirit. But then, reality hits him like a truck. He spots a major buzzkill on his status screen. His active evolution skill is currently locked behind a massive 5-hour cooldown. For a split second, disappointment washes over him. Thankfully, the universe has his back, and his passive evolution triggers like clockwork right after. Saul dumps those precious points straight into the luck stat, instantly realizing that betting on fate was an absolute masterclass move. Riding the high of his passive buff, he viciously dismantles the monstrous crab's carcass to harvest the epic drops. He carefully inspects his prize, locking his eyes on the ultimate goal. His mission is crystal clear now. He needs to grind out 1 billion gold and hunt down every single stolen artifact out there. But for now, playing it safe is the smartest play. He securely stashes the god-tier loot into his inventory, mentally gearing up for the brutal battles ahead. Honestly, Saul is absolutely hyped with this haul. The crown jewel glowing among the drops is a wicked piercing bow. It is a spectacular silver-grade weapon that violently shreds an enemy's defense by 5 points with every single lethal arrow. And the absolute best part, this armor-breaking curse stacks up to 5 times. This makes it the ultimate tank-busting weapon against heavily armored beasts. Thrilled to finally ditch his starter gear for a proper bow, he immediately locks it into his loadout. But wait, there is more. The RNG gods truly blessed him today. He also scores a pair of silver-grade steel gauntlets, completely buffing his arrow-knocking speed to insane levels. Talk about rapid fire. As if that wasn't enough, a massive silver-tier golden greatsword drops into his lap, a beastly blade that unleashes blinding waves of golden aura. With every single devastating swing, dealing a massive 30% of his total attack power as bonus damage. Since his current class locks him out of using it, he tosses the mighty blade into his stash. He can flip it for serious cash later, or maybe gift it to a loyal ally down the line. To top it all off, he bags a silver-tier amulet of life. This overpowered trinket buffs his defense and passively heals him for 10 health points every single second. Whenever he steps out of the combat zone, he equips that bad boy without a second thought. Glancing at his glowing status screen, he realizes he still has a massive stockpile of 21 unspent attribute points. Without hesitation, he dumps every last drop into agility, evolving his hyper-lethal hit-and-run combat style into an absolute blur of speed. Honestly, after absorbing all these insane power-ups, his system interface is looking like a total boss build. But just as he is basking in the glory of his new stats, a jarring blood-red system warning flashes across his vision. He has been grinding non-stop for over 15 hours. The system is initiating a forced logout sequence. Saul's jaw drops. Has he really been diving for that long? He desperately tries to cancel the prompt, but the merciless system denies his command, violently ejecting him from the virtual realm. Let us be real, the guy is acting like a total gaming addict suffering from withdrawals. The next second, his physical eyes snap open in the real world, and he literally screams out loud that he still needs to grind. But as his blurry vision finally clears, the cold reality sets in. He is lying inside a high-tech gaming pod, surrounded by the stark white walls of a hospital room, or maybe a ridiculously sterile luxury hotel suite. The silence in the room is deafening, and a wave of pure cringe hits him. Realizing how unhinged he just sounded, screaming like a maniac. The game's mandatory bootouts are hardwired into the system to prevent players from frying their brains. It is honestly humiliating for a full-grown man like him to be put in a virtual timeout like a little kid. But you know what? Everything in the fantasy realm is falling perfectly into place. If he keeps riding this unstoppable momentum, it won't be long until he crushes his enemies completely. All those treacherous snakes who betrayed him in the past are going to pay the ultimate price. Suddenly, the intense atmosphere shifts. Saul turns his head and spots his precious sister fast asleep on the bedside cot. His heart does a little flip. He honestly cannot believe she actually stayed in this depressing hospital room just to watch over him. She even brought a homemade bowl of pork rib soup. The savory steam drifts through the air, and honestly, the broth does not look like a biohazard for once. This is genuinely mind-blowing to him. Why? Because Sophia has literally been pampered like absolute royalty her entire life. The girl has never lifted a finger for chores, but seeing her big brother trapped in a hospital bed must have pushed her to declare war on the kitchen just to feed him. Completely melted by this heartwarming sisterly love, Saul blindly scoops up a massive spoonful, but the second it touches his tongue, reality strikes him like a critical hit. His sister might be top tier in the looks department, but her cooking stats are absolutely in the negative. The demonic flavor assaulting his taste buds defies all human logic, and he instantly fights the urge to throw up. His aggressive choking noises jolt Sophia awake, and her sleepy eyes light up with pure joy. Seeing her beloved brother finally disconnected and awake, for a split second, confusion crosses her face as she notices him looking like he just swallowed poison. But her worries vanish instantly the moment she realizes he is actually eating her painstakingly crafted soup. Bubbling with excitement, she leans in, begging to know how delicious it is. Saul stares into the cursed bowl, gazes back at his sister's shining, hopeful eyes, and makes the ultimate heroic sacrifice to lie through his teeth. Forcing a painful smile, he chokes down the deadly broth. It's amazing he lies smoothly, just needs a tiny drop of lemon. Sophia's eyes sparkle with pure joy. Totally oblivious, she practically shoves the bowl at him, begging him to drain every last drop since he loves her cooking so much. But inside his head, total panic mode. After surviving countless high-tier raid bosses and literal nightmares, a chilling realization hits him hard. This bowl of rib soup, it is the ultimate survival test. To his taste buds, this is straight-up toxic poison. But he has zero choice. He has to swallow his pride and the soup. Flash forward to the next morning, and the brutal backlash kicks in. His physical body has completely shut down, all thanks to that cursed meal. Moments later, a drop-dead gorgeous nurse glides into his hospital room. She slides way too close into his personal space. With a sugary, fake-worried voice, she points out his brutal food poisoning, noting how he spent the entire night fighting for his life in the bathroom. But make no mistake, her intentions are anything but pure. She is a top-tier gold digger on the prowl. She took one look at his handsome face and assumed he was loaded. Now that his HP is practically zero, she sees the perfect opening. He is her golden ticket to a life of absolute luxury. But our main character, Saul, he is totally blind to her flirty trap. He honestly just thinks his exhaustion is from grinding too many hours in the game. Refusing to take a hint, the nurse cranks her charm up to level 99. She gently strokes his hand, leaning in to whisper that if he needs absolutely anything, she is right there to serve him. However, those sweet words spark a totally different genius idea in Saul's gamer brain. With a deadpan face, he casually orders her to push his wheelchair straight to the VR gaming pod. The nurse freezes in pure shock. Her jaw drops. She cannot believe this supposed rich kid just friend-zoned her entire existence. And she actually questions if her makeup game was weak today. Still swallowing her pride, she rolls him over. The second, Saul logs back in. His avatar's eyes snap open. Freedom at last. Striding through the vibrant virtual world, he pulls up the global server stats and sees the active player count flashing at 302,000. And the hype train is only speeding up. Budget VR gear is flooding the market. In his past life memories, he knows that in just 1 month, this game will hit 100 million players worldwide. The clock is ticking. He desperately needs to power level if he wants to execute his perfect revenge plan. But checking his inventory screen, reality hits him. His current gear is absolute trash for the endgame. He needs serious firepower. The mission is clear. He either hunts down level 20 plus raid bosses, or he drops some heavy cash on rare merchant drops. Moments later, he kicks open the door to a premium gear shop. The greedy merchant takes one look at Saul's shining silver armor and instantly starts bootlicking, smelling a wealthy VIP customer. But our main character is completely unbothered by the fake hype. Sweeping his gaze across the room, he scoffs. The display racks are filled with worthless bronze-tier garbage. If he is going to solo gold-grade bosses, he needs gold-grade weapons. And his veteran gamer instincts scream that this sly merchant is hiding the good stuff in a secret stash. Cutting the small talk, Saul demands to see the real hidden treasures. The merchant instantly plays dumb, putting on a flawless, innocent act, sweating slightly as he claims he has zero clue what Saul is talking about. He tries to spin a web of lies, swearing on his life that the front store items are his entire inventory, trying to sweet-talk his way out. He even offers this so-called refined gentleman an exclusive discount. But when pushed about the secret VIP vault, he doubles down. He claims VIP vaults are just myths, And even if they were real, a player like Saul could never afford the price tag. Big mistake. A dangerous smirk creeps across Saul's face. Without speaking a single word, he slams a blindingly radiant gemstone right onto the counter. The merchant physically recoils. Panic sets in as he realizes he just massively insulted an insanely wealthy whale. Ding, a system alert pops up. Saul watches his reputation with the merchant skyrocket by a massive 70%, and right on cue, a hidden bookshelf slides open, revealing a secret passage. Wasting zero time, they step into the shadows of the underground VIP vault. Trembling with excitement, the merchant reveals God-tier items that were strictly locked behind a 30-day server progression wall. But rules do not apply to VIPs. He gives Saul the absolute first pick of the stash. Despite the dazzling glow of the loot, our hero just yawns. To his veteran eyes, this flashy gear is just glorified silver-tier trash. He mutters his disappointment out loud, leaving the proud merchant deeply offended. But then an oppressive energy fills the room. Like a moth to a dark flame, Saul's gaze locks onto one specific corner. Resting in the shadows is a mask radiating pure, menacing bloodlust. Pointing straight at it, he orders the merchant to hand it over. The shopkeeper gulps, revealing this is the one and only gold-grade mask in the entire current game build. Since launch day, its legendary price tag was locked at 200,000 gold coins. It was supposed to be completely unbuyable until next month's patch. But thanks to that blinding crystal, our main character just dropped. The greedy merchant finally drops the ultimate price tag, demanding a jaw-dropping 150,000 gold coins for the item. This guy just keeps yapping, boasting that your average scrub would have to grind for an entire year just to scrape that kind of insane wealth together. But while the shopkeeper is still running his mouth, Saul cuts him off by transferring the massive sum in a heartbeat. He does not even bother begging for a discount, because honestly, our boy is absolutely loaded. With ice in his veins, Saul calmly lays down the law, telling the stunned merchant to hit his line first if he ever scores any god-tier loot in the future. And boom, just like that, the smooth-talking vendor gets instantly tamed into becoming Saul's loyal personal supplier. Stepping out of the shop into the bustling streets, our hero casually crunches the numbers on his massive flex. That crazy transaction he just pulled off, it equals roughly $2 million in cold hard real-world cash. But honestly, dropping that kind of money on a one-of-a-kind unique tier helmet, that is an absolute steal in this crazy game. This was the ultimate steal. He immediately equips the mask, ready to flex his new power on the server. Flipping through the system settings, he realizes he can actually toggle his stats, choosing exactly what the world gets to see. Meet the White Tiger Mask. This absolute beauty grants a massive 50-point strength boost and packs a highly classified special effect. Its passive ability, pure psychological warfare, striking absolute dread into any lower-level player or monster. The moment his boots hit the village dirt, the entire safe zone freezes. Jaws literally drop to the floor. But amidst the starstruck whispers, a bitter wave of jealousy starts brewing in the crowd. Haters immediately start side-eyeing him. They simply cannot stomach the sight of someone rocking a gold-tier artifact this early in the game. The rumor mill spins out of control. The math just is not mathing for them. There is zero chance gear of that caliber is naturally dropping right now. It is not even listed in the official cash shops yet. To these desperate newbies, the only logical conclusion is that a massive hacker is walking among them. Suddenly, a heavy hand clamps down on his shoulder, forcing him to a dead stop. He slowly turns around, coming face to face with a squad of low-level street trash, desperately trying to look intimidating. They boldly demand he strip off his armor. Their pathetic excuse: it looks way too flashy, and they want to take it for a spin. Our overpowered main character practically scoffs. The absolute sheer audacity of these random mobs is almost impressive. He wonders what kind of brain damage would make someone agree to that. But these arrogant punks are puffing their chests out like they already won. They loudly accuse him of exploiting the system, claiming there is no way on earth a legit player could obtain such god-tier loot without hacking. Their brilliant blackmail scheme: hand over the entire inventory right now, or they will mass report him and get his account permanently banned. Saul has to bite his lip to keep from bursting into laughter. This is not a crusade for justice, it is just a pathetic, poorly hidden mugging. The drama acts like a magnet. Dozens of curious bystanders swarm the plaza, forming a tight circle around the confrontation. The toxic community secretly hopes this flashy show-off gets utterly humbled. Their blinding envy is practically dripping from their faces. The mob mentality kicks in fast, and these thugs are master manipulators playing the angry audience like a fiddle. The loudest goon starts hyping up the crowd, screaming that they need to teach this exploiting dog a painful lesson. The brainwashed sheep immediately chime in, demanding absolute justice against the cheater. But our hero just stands there like a mountain. He literally could not care less about their barking. He watches with dead eyes as the bloodthirsty crowd cheers for the thugs to beat him to a pulp and strip his account bare. Enough is enough. The alpha wannabe steps up, issuing one final ultimatum for the gear. Refuse and his trio of trash will execute him on the spot. They promise to send him crying back to the respawn point. and every single time he revives, they swear they will camp his body and slaughter him until he rage quits. Unfortunately for them, Saul is fresh out of patience. He is not here to negotiate terms. He is here to delete them from existence. He pulls up his detection skill, shaking his head at how easily these mindless non-player characters swallow any garbage rumor they hear. The brutal reality of this world is simple. When apex predators step onto the field, sometimes they have to remind the bottom feeders where they belong. His gamer eyes scan their pathetic stats. Target 1 is a squishy level 4 warrior. Target 2 is a level 5 assassin backed up by a level 5 archer. After silently judging their garbage builds, he casually invites all three of them to attack him simultaneously. Blinded by ego, the trio charges forward like rabid dogs. They are absolutely certain this arrogant kid is all bark and no bite, but they forgot one crucial detail. Saul is basically a walking raid boss. The microsecond combat is initiated, the mask unleashes its dormant leopard spirit. A suffocating, blood-curdling aura explodes across the plaza. Bam! The three attackers slam into the dirt instantly. Their health bars plummet as sheer paralyzing terror locks their bodies. That is the devastating power of gold-tier suppression. The entire server seems to lag as the spectators gasp. The supposed fight ended in a literal fraction of a second. Our hero nonchalantly strolls forward, stopping right above the trembling leader. Looking down like a god, he officially drops his username, Saul Van Stralen. He coldly invites them to come hunt him down anytime they want. That is, if they ever manage to find their spines again. Suddenly, a massive realization hits one of the onlookers. That legendary username rings a very distinct, very terrifying bell. With trembling fingers, he pulls up the global server leaderboards. And there it is. The absolute monster standing right in front of them is the undisputed #1 ranked player in the entire world. You could hear a pin drop in that plaza. A cold sweat washes over the crowd as they realize they just actively cheered against a living god. Their brains short-circuit trying to process the sheer magnitude of their mistake. They just taunted the highest-ranking legend in the game. The hypocrisy levels immediately skyrocket. Within milliseconds, the toxic booing shifts into desperate, deafening fanboy cheers. Suddenly, everyone acts like they were his biggest supporters from day one. Meanwhile, the utterly humiliated gang leader is choking on his own disbelief. Crushed into the dirt by the globe's strongest warrior. But Saul completely tunes out the desperate clout chasers. He does not play this game for cheap applause. His laser focus is already locked onto the next main scenario. Ignoring the screaming fans, he turns his back and walks deeper into the village. There is a specific quest to trigger before he returns to the grinding fields. Stepping into a quiet alley, he spots his target, a tiny non-player character girl innocently playing with a small frog. Saul's lips curled into a knowing smirk. He already held all her secrets in the palm of his hand. Closing the distance with slow, deliberate steps, he casually dropped the name. "Do you know Lady Goo?" But the bratty little girl wasn't having it. She crossed her arms and fired back. "Who are you calling a kid? We're practically the same age." Bingo. Her fiery reaction was all the proof our hero needed. He had found his exact target. Crouching down to her eye level, Saul hit her with the million-dollar question. "You're Lady Goo's daughter, aren't you?" Lingar froze, totally glitching out. Her mind raced. How did this random guy know her name? And worse, how did he uncover her absolute biggest secret? Saul, absolutely thriving on her panic, decided to do a little trolling. Without skipping a beat, he spun a massive lie. "Your mom promised we'd get married in 5 years. Hearing that, poor Lingar short-circuited. She stammered wildly as her face turned tomato red. Completely thoroughly spooked, she bolted toward her mom, screaming at the top of her lungs like a terrified toddler. Her frantic cries echoed through the yard. Lady Goo instantly dashed out, wrapping her crying daughter in a protective hug. She was utterly bewildered by the girl's sobbing nonsense. Right on cue, Saul stepped out from the shadows, introducing himself with terrifying calm. Lady Goo stared at him like she'd seen a ghost. She couldn't fathom that he actually survived the legendary heart difficulty trial. Meanwhile, Saul looked like he just finished a light jog. He smoothly reminded her of their deal. Survived the trial, and he'd come looking for her kid. And since he was a man of his word, he was here to collect. Lady Goo's brows furiously knitted together in pure mama bear mode. She demanded to know his endgame. If he dared lay a finger on her daughter, she would pack up and flee the server immediately. That actually caught Saul off guard. It wasn't every day a player managed to mentally break an NPC, pushing them to the point of abandoning their spawn point. He might actually hold the world record for that. Chuckling, he threw his hands up in surrender and took a step back to diffuse the tension. "Whoa, chill out, no need to panic. I just need you to hand over the intermediate dungeon map." Regaining her composure, Lady Goo flatly stated she didn't have it. Suddenly, Saul's entire body began to tremble. Spotting his weird vibe, she instantly dropped into a combat stance, bracing herself for a lethal strike. But the killer blow never came. Instead, Saul whipped out a glowing crystal. Flashing a sickeningly sweet smile like Santa, handing out presents, he called it a tiny token of his gratitude. a tip for letting him unlock the hidden class trial earlier. The moment she laid eyes on the gem, her favorability rating skyrocketed by 50%. Both mother and daughter stared completely mesmerized. Lady Gu was practically drooling over the shiny loot. But little Lingar, despite being a total brat, was still a kid at heart. In a flash, she snatched the crystal right out of her mom's hand, mesmerized by the sparkle. Lady Gu instantly chased after her, kicking off a hilarious high-speed family scuffle right in the middle of the yard. Mid-chaos, Lingar blurted out the craziest logic. "This must be the engagement ring for our wedding." The one happening in 5 years, Saul mentally facepalmed, realizing his epic troll job had just horribly backfired. The kid had zero common sense. She had swallowed his ridiculous lie hook, line, and sinker. Still, a gamer never breaks character. He played along, saying he just needed the map from her mom first. "Once the time is right, we'll make it official." Defeated by the madness, Lady Gu let out a massive sigh and finally caved. She explained the brutal system mechanics. Normally, the intermediate dungeon map is time-locked for 20 days, only unlocking after server launch. But since his bribe was just too good, she decided to leak a massive system loophole. The system secretly allows the village chief to hand the map early to any player hungry enough for a real challenge. Without wasting a single frame, Lingar proudly puffed out her chest, declaring she knew exactly where the chief lived, and she was going to be his personal VIP guide. A quick fast travel, later they arrived at the spot. The village chief was catching some Z's in the warm sunlight, completely vibing and thinking her NPC life was an absolute breeze. Suddenly, the system triggered a warning. A high-speed projectile was incoming, before she could even open her eyes. Boom! Lingar launched herself like a heat-seeking missile. The poor old woman got completely steamrolled by the tiny menace. Amazingly, her aggro didn't trigger. She just dusted herself off and asked who dared to interrupt her nap. Stepping up to the plate, Saul didn't waste breath. He gave it to her straight, hand over the map, and he'd vanish. The chief scanned his stats and scoffed. "You're only level 13, kid." She told him to grind until level 20 before talking big. But Saul, staying true to his pay-to-win mindset, simply slapped another insanely rare gem on the table. Instead of getting hyped, the chief let out a dark chuckle. "Boy, do you even know why they made me the boss of this village? The reason is crystal clear. This boss lady possesses way too much pride to accept dirty bribes from some cocky dude like him." But Lingard snatches up the glowing gem with surprising street smarts. She casually drops that if the chief is going to pass on the loot, she might as well toss it right back to Saul. Triggered by those words, the chief launches the rock straight back at his face without skipping a beat. A sly smirk creeps across Saul's face. He realizes this kid might actually be a massive W instead of a total nuisance. The chief isn't done roasting him, though. She points out his pathetic level 13 status, completely baffled by his delusion of speeding through the zones. Even the absolute trash-tier mobs in that territory casually rock level 20 stats. Walking in there with his current rookie build would be a guaranteed one-way ticket to the respawn point. To keep him from completely griefing his own playthrough, she refuses to hand over the map. Saul doubles down, ready to flex his actual power. They finally strike a deal, but first he needs to clear a specific system quest, handed down straight from the village chief herself. She breaks down the lore, explaining how a vicious wolf pack raids their home every single year. Sure, some hyped-up warriors roll through trying to play hero, but they always fail to wipe out the root cause. The real nightmare, the pack answers to an absolute boss, the White Wolf King. Saul's mission is to obliterate this beast and secure the ultimate drop. He needs to harvest the beast's literal eyes. Right on cue, a glowing blue system window pops up in his vision. Saul locks in and accepts the quest with zero hesitation. He tells the chief to keep that map warm because he is about to speedrun this mission. But right before he dips out, Lingard blocks his path. The kid practically begs to tag along aggressively, flexing that she can totally act as his bodyguard. Saul lets out a heavy sigh. He tells her to bounce back to her mom because playing babysitter while farming elite mobs is a massive nerf. Lingard hears him out, but she is completely immune to rejection. She keeps spamming her request, swearing up and down that she is basically top-tier security. She claims she can solo the White Wolves while single-handedly defending the entire village. However, Saul glances back at his glowing quest window and catches a brutal detail. Hidden right there in the clear conditions is a hard-locked escort clause. He literally has to protect Lingard. Just like that, his escape route is completely shut down. Forced to take the L, he accepts the party invite. Now he has to tank her endless whining about how he almost ditched her. The kid literally cries rivers for a solid minute, until finally deep within the treacherous forest, he completely caves in. Soon after, Lingard locks onto the exact coordinates, where the system flagged the last White Wolf sighting. The atmosphere drops. The woods are pitch black, freezing, and giving off massive, cursed vibes. Suddenly terrified, she grabs onto our hero's cloak for dear life as they push deeper into the shadows. Out of nowhere, a beastly roar shatters the dead silence. Their heads snap instantly toward the booming echo. The poor girl practically shrinks from the jump scare, but Saul's gamer instinct kicks in. Time to investigate. Creeping closer, they realize A squad is already engaging the wolf pack. Our hero steps up and drops a super chill greeting to the frontline warrior. He casually asks for the exact coordinates to the main wolf den. Taking a quick scan of the battlefield, he notices a full-blown party grinding away. We are talking a standard archer, assassin, warrior, and mage setup, all rocking mismatched levels. But their party leader is heavily glaring at them, clearly toxic about having randoms crashing his spot. He scowls and demands to know why Saul is asking. He aggressively claims they have locked down this grinding zone, absolutely forbidding any outsiders from leeching XP. Saul just blinks, completely unfazed by this gatekeeping nonsense. Trying to flex, the leader yanks up his sleeve, shoving an ugly snake tattoo right in Saul's face. Dripping with pure arrogance, he brags that they are the infamous Green Snake Syndicate. And this forest, it is strictly their turf. Our main character is just standing there like, who? Seeing the blank stare, the leader keeps yapping. He boasts that even the high-tier Buffalo Plains are totally monopolized by his guild. Then he drops an absolute scam of an ultimatum. If Saul wants to farm XP here, he needs to pay up a heavy protection fee. Otherwise, they will gladly PK him straight back to the newbie village, where he will be stuck farming basic chickens for eternity. Right then, the toxic leader locks eyes on Lingard. He realizes she is not a player, but a literal NPC. A greedy smirk appears as he asks if this means they have triggered a rare hidden quest. Saul's aura shifts instantly. He steps right in front of the kid, completely shielding her from their gaze. He coldly tells the guild to back off and mind their own business. Then, with zero hesitation, Saul absolutely roasts their entire combat strategy, calling their grinding rotation painfully inefficient. One of the mob players gets defensive, snapping back that even with trash strategy, these low-level wild wolves still drop decent XP. They might be weak, but they are practically free kills. Suddenly, Lingard's entire body freezes up. Her instincts scream that something demonic is lurking. She frantically warns our hero that a massive threat is closing. In Saul's eyes pierce through the dense tree line. He spots a terrifying pitch-black shadow, slithering unnaturally through the dead branches. Without wasting a single microsecond, he scoops up Lingard and launches himself high into the canopy above. Down below, the arrogant guild laughs, thinking Saul just chickened out of a fight. But up in the branches, Saul looks down at them with pure pity. They are complete idiots, because not a single one of them can sense the overwhelming bloodthirsty aura radiating from the true wolves. And then, absolute chaos erupts. A massive shadow blocks out the sun as a colossal beast drops right on top of them. Thick drool drips down, splashing onto one of the terrified girls. She slowly looks up, only to be met by a gaping nightmare. The White Wolf King has its massive jaws wide open. With zero time to react, the monster brutally swallows her whole in a single chomp, leaving just her legs dangling from its bloody teeth. Her squad can only watch in absolute horror. Absolute chaos erupts. The party scrambles like scattered ants as the alpha beast locks onto its next target. The predator does not hesitate. It launches forward, treating them like easy experience points as it hunts them down one by one. Boom, it literally glitches out of reality, blinking back into existence for lethal stealth strikes. It is squashing them like literal bugs. Crimson paints the forest floor, but the arrogant alpha completely misses one major detail. Lurking in the distance, perched high up in the canopy, Saul observes in dead silence. His cold eyes track every single murderous movement, downloading its attack patterns and searching for any blind spot. Right on cue, a blue holographic system window pops up. The boss is level 20. Its main critical strike zone is the abdomen, backed by a massive health pool of around 4,000 hit points. Its eyes are also flagged as vulnerable targets, but its actual skill tree remains a total mystery. Our protagonist scowls. The math is not mathing. That instant teleportation cannot just be a maxed out agility stat. It is way too busted. That only means one thing. This overgrown mutt is absolutely hiding its true power level. Trusting his gamer instincts, our hero readies his bow and shifts his blade. It is time to limit test this boss. But before he can even flex, Lingu shoots her arm out, physically blocking his path. That tiny rustle is all it takes. The alpha snaps its head up, locking its predatory gaze right onto their branch. A heavy, suffocating silence drops as the beast glares into their souls. But surprisingly, it just turns and vanishes into the brush. The second it is gone, our hero drops from the tree to give chase. But Lingu grabs him yet again. With deadpan logic, she explains that those 5 noobs pulled massive aggro by slaughtering way too many wolf mobs. If he tries to flex with his current stats, the result is simple. He will get one-shotted. They need a bulletproof strategy before stepping into that boss room. Our protagonist is honestly blown away that a supposed low-tier non-player character has this much tactical brainpower and actually cares if he gets wiped out. He has to hand it to her, she is right. If he wants to survive this raid, he urgently needs to farm more stats. So he asks for the optimal grinding route. Without skipping a beat, she slides him a fully rendered map. The boss lair is perfectly marked. Our guy raises an eyebrow, demanding to know why she kept this hidden. She flashes a smug, teasing smile, reminding him that from now on, he should never consider her a burden to carry. Talk about perfect timing, a golden system alert chimes. Evolution pathway is now unlocked. Saul smirks with absolute satisfaction. It is about time. His mythical gauntlet materializes onto his arm, pulsing with a sleek, dangerous energy. Even Lingu cannot hide her awe. Riding that dopamine hit, the hero flexes the gear and attempts to force another bloodline evolution. But instantly, a harsh red warning screen blasts his retina's error. His entire aura pool flatlines, plunging straight into the negatives. The system ruthlessly reminds him that his bloodline is already maxed out for now. No double dipping allowed. Cue the awkward silence. He chuckles nervously, scratching the back of his head. Hey, you miss 100% of the shots you do not take. Pivoting his strategy, he realizes his phantom skill is the only thing ripe for an upgrade. Even though it has been sitting in his inventory untouched, he decides it is time for a test drive. He triggers the skill. A blinding azure aura explodes, projecting a massive spectral clone into the sky. The avatar looks like a literal cosmic god forged from pure liquid energy, an absolute flex of a reflection. He shoots a sideways glance at Lingu, the gears turning in his head. Could he somehow cast this crazy buff onto her too? Knowing how completely broken his system usually is, he is willing to bet actual money that it would work. But first he refocuses on pushing the phantom to its limits. He commands the spirit clone to draw the 7-star arrow. Just like clockwork, the phantom does not skip a beat. It mirrors his signature martial art with terrifying, flawless precision. But right before it lets the arrow fly, Saul completely cancels the attack. His eyes go wide at a game-breaking detail. The phantom is not just a copycat. It can actually trigger active system skills independently. This insane revelation ignites a wildly dangerous spark in his brain. A completely unhinged exploit begins to form. A glitch that could let him do the unthinkable and finesse the system itself. Smirking Saul orders his phantom to activate the evolution. With a single command, the awakening kicks off instantly. A blinding blast of golden aura erupts around him, and since the phantom is tied directly to Saul's soul, he literally feels that surging raw power coursing through his own veins. In mere seconds, the spirit breaks its limits, mutating into a dual phantom. The system prompt flashes, immediately warning that this form has hit its absolute max cap. But get this, Saul can now summon 2 phantoms simultaneously, and each clone copies a whopping 60% of his attack damage, for 1 full minute. Our guy honestly did not expect this crazy experiment to actually work, but he cannot hide his massive grin, totally hyped that he just pulled off the impossible. Lingar suddenly cuts in, side-eyeing him, and asking if he just turned on some literal hacks. Saul bursts out laughing, flexing that even cheat codes are not this ridiculously overpowered or clever. He confidently claims that at the end of the day, this epic result is purely thanks to his massive brain and top-tier gaming skills. But Lingar quickly drops a reality check, pointing out his current odds of winning are still sitting at a miserable 20%. Saul decides he needs to pump those rookie numbers up fast. Without hesitating, he upgrades his 7-star arrow skill, evolving it into the terrifying 7-star flaming arrows. This new ultimate unleashes 7 blazing projectiles back-to-back at a single target, with each hit dealing true damage, equal to 1% of the enemy's max health. Yet our protagonist actually frowns slightly, bummed it did not upgrade to 8 arrows. Lingar instantly roasts him for whining, reminding him that his new ability is already completely broken. Checking the system interface again, she realizes his survival odds just spiked to 34%. Right on cue, another glowing alert pops up, signaling that the Phantom's cooldown timer has already reset. Even Saul is stunned by how insanely fast it refreshed. He immediately tries to test out his latest active evolution, but the interface rejects it, flashing a strict cooldown warning. Then it clicks in his head. The Phantom literally mirrors both the base stats and the exact skill cooldowns of his main body. Since he just burned his active evolution, the clone is locked out of using it too. He makes a mental note for next time. He absolutely must buff both Phantoms before triggering his own skills, especially if he wants to. Avoid getting wiped out during massive boss raids. After calculating his next move, Saul tells Lingar to stick close. He teases a brand new strategy to skyrocket their win rate. She has absolutely no clue where they are heading, but she obediently trails right behind him. A short trek later, they arrive at a rushing river. They manage to hunt down a high-tier mutant crocodile. Its premium meat restores 200 health points and aggressively buffs movement speed by 30%. Both of them are totally hyped to score such god-tier loot. Saul summons his Phantom just to play head chef, and a full hour later, Lingar lets out a satisfied burp after devouring the absolute best surf and turf of her life. Saul just smirks, completely unsurprised. The ingredients were S-class, leaving both of them fully recharged and energized from the epic feast. After wiping his mouth, Saul tosses the leftover premium meat straight into his inventory. He quickly analyzes his current setup, realizing the synergy between his 3 Phantoms is downright terrifying. Stacked with his massive stash of healing items, he is more than ready to slaughter those wolves. He asks Lingar for a quick scan of his updated win rate, and she confirms he is currently sitting at roughly 40%. Saul shoots up to his feet, his eyes locking onto his target, totally prepared to clash with the White Wolf King. He dashes forward into the danger zone, with Lingar shadowing his every step. But what neither of them realizes is that creeping through the shadows behind them, a squad of nosy rival players is secretly tracking their trail, spying on their every single move. The camera then pans directly to the eerie Wolf King's den. Standing at the entrance, Saul tosses Lingar a quick thanks for providing the dungeon map. Wasting 0 seconds, he summons his phantoms and spams the death trap skill. Here's the math. Each phantom stays on the field for 60 seconds while the trap ability only takes 30 seconds to recharge. That means a single clone can drop 2 lethal snares per summon, giving him an easy 4 traps right off the bat. Saul aggressively repeats this loop until an invisible web of absolute doom completely chokes off the lair's entrance. But here is the ultimate cheat. The traps are totally invisible to anyone else, meaning only his eyes can track the danger zones. Lingar sweats a little, thinking this level of preparation is pure overkill, but strangely, his win rate has not moved a single inch. He bites into a chunk of buff-boosting meat, while his brain goes into overdrive. He knows the Wolf King's speed is broken, so he has to completely shut down every single escape route. Lingar nods, admitting the trap strategy is flawless, but points out, the win rate hasn't even hit 50% yet, but our main character just flashes a cocky grin. He confidently claims he still has one final trick up his sleeve. Turning to Lingard, he orders her to hide behind a massive oak tree. He swiftly sets up a perimeter of deadly traps around her to guarantee her safety. No matter what monstrous nightmare crawls out of the shadows, no matter what happens, she must stay frozen like a statue. With his preparations complete, Saul roars into the wind, calling out the White Wolf King for a duel to the death. His arrogant taunts hit their mark. Slowly, 2 glowing eyes pierce the darkness. As the beast glares from the depths of its cave, Saul stands his ground like a mountain. He waits in absolute silence, muscles tensed, waiting for that glorious moment when the apex predator steps right into his carefully laid trap. The alpha is just inches away from stepping into the moonlight, but suddenly its massive nose twitches. It catches a bizarre scent. Instead of charging out the cowardly, beast scurries back into the shadows. Seriously, it looks like it just remembered it left the oven on back home. Saul blinks in total disbelief. A cold realization hits him. Did he completely underestimate the razor-sharp instincts of this mutated beast? Not wasting a single second, our hero starts trash-talking at the top of his lungs. He calls the monster a pathetic coward and demands it to face him like a man. His goal is crystal clear. He needs to piss off the White King enough to make it charge. From a safe distance, Lingard watches this absolute chaos unfold from behind her tree, staring at his back. She smirks. Sure, he pulls off some incredibly epic moves sometimes, but she still needs to see his true power if this guy actually plans on marrying her someday. But little does Lingard know, a deadly shadow is creeping right up behind her. Out of absolutely nowhere, a rough hand violently clamps over her mouth, completely silencing her desperate screams. It is the exact same stalker who had been tracking their every single move from the shadows. In the blink of an eye, she is snatched away into the darkness. Right at that very second, a chilling blue system screen pops up in front of our main character. Alert. A trap has been triggered. Saul frowns in deep confusion. He scans the battlefield, but wait. None of the deadly snares meant for the Wolf King have even been scratched. His blood runs cold. That can only mean one terrifying thing. The defensive perimeter he set up around Lingard just went off. Pure panic grips his heart. Did the Wolf King somehow bypass him and drag her into the abyss? But as his eyes adjust to the gloom, the truth hits him. A filthy gang of thugs is brutally dragging poor Lingard through the dirt. She fights back like a cornered beast, screaming her lungs out for them to let her go. The gang leader just unleashes a sickening, arrogant laugh, calling her a feisty little wildcat. Meanwhile, his pathetic lackeys are whining in the background. One of them literally has Saul's steel trap painfully clamped shut right onto his bleeding leg. The goons totally ruin their boss's villain monologue. They beg him to stop playing around with the hostage and focus on the mission. But Lingard refuses to back down. Glaring daggers at them, she proudly announces that her man is standing right over there and he is about to beat them into absolute pulp. The gang leader practically chokes on his own spit. He stares at her in total utter disbelief. How the heck does a tiny brat like this already have a full-grown husband? Off to the side, Saul is internally screaming. He is practically sweating bullets of pure cringe over this utterly humiliating scene. But Lingard is completely blind to his dying soul. She just keeps turning up the drama, wailing like she is the star of a tragic soap opera. The surrounding thugs absolutely lose their minds laughing. They are now 100% convinced that Saul actually has a creepy thing for little kids. Our absolute badass of a hero is dying inside, hating every agonizing second of this totally embarrassing disaster. Wiping away a tear of laughter, the boss takes a menacing step forward. He demands to know if Saul realizes whose turf he is stepping on. Unfazed, Saul casually replies that he knows exactly where he is. He is well aware he just crashed right into the Green Snake Gang's hunting grounds. The gang leader's smug smile drops instantly. He cannot fathom the sheer audacity of this guy. He knew the risks and still walked right into the dragon's den. The boss narrows his eyes, bringing up a squad of his men who got brutally wiped out earlier today. His voice drips with venom as he asks if Saul was the Grim Reaper who sent them to the afterlife. Our hero keeps his aura totally ice cold. He flatly denies pulling the trigger on those losers. With a razor-sharp smirk, he drops the ultimate disrespect. If they don't believe him, they are more than welcome to wait for those dead bodies to respawn and ask them face to face. The gang boss explodes with rage. He spits insults like venom, mocking Saul as a spineless coward who would never have the guts to lay a single finger on the mighty Green Snake Syndicate. A deadly aura flares up around Saul. He is half a second away from unleashing pure hell, but he forcefully bites his tongue. Lingard's life is still hanging by a fragile thread. He forces himself to play the fool for now. He feeds them a total lie, claiming he was just taking a casual stroll through these nightmare woods. Not a single soul buys that garbage excuse. Instead, the thug's eyes light up with pure greed. They are absolutely convinced a massively overpowered hidden boss is lurking nearby. They figure this lone wolf was out here scouting for some epic loot to power level himself. Smirking like hyenas, they demand he instantly drop the coordinates of this legendary monster so they can steal the kill and claim all the glory for themselves. Internally, our main character is dying of laughter. He literally cannot believe how insanely brain-dead these walking experience points actually are. He could hand them the White Wolf King on a silver platter without breaking a sweat. Still, he decides to play a little mind game, pitching them a high-stakes trade. If they let his girl walk free right now, the hidden boss is all theirs. His mission objective hasn't changed. He just needs to get Lingard completely out of the crossfire. But the arrogant gang leader just sneers at him like he is a bug on a windshield. He asks Saul if he actually comprehends what kind of terrifying monster he is negotiating with. Right on cue, a gang girl steps up to the spotlight. With blind devotion, she proudly announces the legendary identity of their vicious leader. Meet Federico Perez, the third young master of the second largest syndicate out there. This guy actually sits at rank 27 on the heavenly leaderboard. Hearing that name drops a bomb on Saul's memory. He definitely knows this face from his past life. Back then, his family's mega corporation owned 40% of that exact syndicate. Even his own father treated this Silver Spoon kid with total respect. But right now, this so-called elite is acting like a two-bit street thug. He has absolutely zero clue who he is messing with. Trying to rob Saul, our main character just lets out a heavy mental sigh. Looks like he has no choice. Time to teach these arrogant punks a brutal lesson in respect. Saul raises his hand ready to snap his fingers and end this. But suddenly, an earth-shattering roar erupts from deep inside the cavern. The shockwave snaps everyone's attention away. Seizing the opening, the young girl shouts to her boss. The hidden boss must be lurking inside. Federico's eyes light up with greed. He rallies his meatheads, screaming at the top of his lungs to charge in and butcher the beast. The mob instantly abandons Saul and stampedes toward the entrance. They literally toss Lingard right at him, fully convinced that they have way bigger fish to fry. Our guy catches her without breaking a sweat, standing back in the shadows. He watches the absolute circus unfold. Honestly, he cannot wrap his head around how these brain-dead clowns ever became a top-tier guild. Rushing a hidden boss with zero prep, they do not even know what is waiting in the dark. And if they just so happen to trigger his carefully laid traps, well, that sounds like a personal problem. Right on cue. Bam! The entire squad stumbles straight into Saul's danger zone. Chaos erupts. They are spinning in circles, completely paralyzed by sheer terror. Just seconds ago, the young master was acting tough. Now, his false courage shatters into a million pieces. The White King towers over him like a mountain of pure dread. Federico's knees are practically knocking together. He stares up, sweating bullets, wondering what kind of nightmare fuel this boss actually is. Because let's be real, this thing looks perfectly capable of deleting him from existence. One of his assassins frantically scans the monster, looking for a weak point, but the stats drop like an anvil. It is level 20. Spiraling into panic, he begs his boss for a game plan. Federico swallows hard. Trying desperately to mask his fear, he slaps on a fake, confident smirk. He boasts that as long as he is breathing, they are totally fine. Time to flex his ultimate pay-to-win secret weapon. A hidden combat class called the Berserker Giant. It is a seriously broken high-tier skill that he literally bought by swiping his dad's credit card. Refusing to look like a coward in front of his squad, he instantly pops the ultimate ability. Boom! His actual body violently mutates into a colossal, towering giant. Now he is glaring right back at the White King. The system buff is insane. Strength skyrockets by 130%. Attack power surges by 150%. Plus, it comes packed with a deadly execution passive. Even Saul raises an eyebrow from the sidelines. Not bad, he thinks. That ability is definitely getting stolen later. Meanwhile, Lingard tugs at Saul's sleeve, asking if he is seriously just dropping the quest. He flashes a chilled-out smirk. Why rush to kill the boss? Let's grab some popcorn and enjoy the freak show first. Back in the pit, the young master's lackeys start hyping him up like crazy. They are screaming that he is a literal god, telling him he will one-shot the beast. And the sad part, Federico actually believes them. Drunk on his own, boosted stats, and massive ego, he stomps forward, oozing absolute arrogance. With a whole backline of healers and assassins ready to jump in, he launches himself straight at the White Wolf. He is practically tasting the victory already, but reality hits him like a freight train. The wolf snatches him out of midair like a cheap stuffed animal. Razor steel claws shred through him, dealing a devastating 800 damage. It completely bypasses all his heavy armor. The pay-to-win rich kid drops to a pathetic 80 health points. He is clinging to life by a single pixel. The White King brutally tosses his broken body aside like literal garbage. Total silence. The entire squad freezes in sheer horror, watching their unbeatable boss get humiliated in 2 seconds flat. Survival instinct kicks in. The party completely shatters, scattering like roaches in every direction. Saul watches the pathetic retreat, shaking his head with a sarcastic grin. Unbelievably loyal and absolutely 100% useless. But the boss is not done yet. The White Wolf throws its head back and unleashes a blood-curdling howl. Suddenly, an entire pack of ravenous wolves bursts from the shadows, hunting down the screaming cowards. Even that girl who was glued to the young master's side is sprinting for her life, totally abandoning him to the slaughter. She is literally terrified of a level 2 wolf, yet she suggests turning back to save him. The rest of the party looks at her like she has completely lost her mind. There is zero chance of surviving against a pack this massive, especially when their boss just got one-shotted. Running for their lives is the only logical play here. One of the party members even realizes that her endless simping is definitely going to get them all slaughtered, so he makes a break for it alone, whispering a pathetic apology for leaving their leader behind in the dirt. But right then, his eyes catch something entirely off-script. Our main character is not running away. Instead of bailing, he is casually strolling straight toward the boss, who is currently bleeding out on the ground. The runaway cannot help but wonder what kind of crazy death wish this guy has. Meanwhile, Saul is already locked onto his real target, the White Wolf King. He smirks, realizing this beast is way smarter than anyone gave it credit for. At first, he thought the monster was just a coward retreating to its den, but the truth hits him. This alpha was simply biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to brutally ambush the very hunters who chased it. At the same time, the crushed guild leader Federico Perez eats dirt. Completely humiliated and hovering on death's door, he watches our protagonist from the ground. He instantly labels Saul an arrogant fool for not running away and for daring to face the White King head-on. Federico decides his best survival tactic is to play dead and wait out the slaughter before making his escape. But the White Wolf does not take threats lightly. Sending a telepathic command, it orders its entire pack to rip him to shreds right now. Without breaking a sweat, our hero activates his headgear. He calmly stares them down and declares, "You guys might be wolves, but I am a tiger." A massive, suffocating aura erupts from his body, taking the colossal phantom shape of a roaring white tiger, crushed by this overwhelming bloodlust. The terrified wolves completely break formation and scatter, some already limping away. The White Wolf King seethes at the sight of its pack getting hurt. But before the alpha can even bare its fangs, Saul launches himself into the sky. He unleashes an absolute downpour of arrows, straight at the boss monster. Yet the wolf moves with god-tier agility, weaving through every single arrow like it is absolutely nothing. Our hero instantly reads the situation. The beast's speed is completely busted, and his aim simply cannot keep up. If he does not figure out a way to land a guaranteed hit, he is going to lose this fight. Out of nowhere, the giant wolf lunges forward, charging up its devastating steel claw attack right at the exact moment. Saul decides to take the hit head-on. The brutal strike connects with a sickening crunch. Lingard watches in pure horror. As crimson blood sprays from our hero's body, his protective shield shatters into a million glowing pieces, and a massive chunk of his health points vanishes. But instead of panicking, Saul flashes a wicked grin. He mocks the beast, calling it an absolute idiot for thinking he actually failed to dodge that strike. The reality of the situation is terrifyingly brilliant. Our hero tanked the damage on purpose. He needed the alpha to step perfectly into his kill zone. The strategy was brutally simple. If he had dodged the claw, he never would have locked the White Wolf in a blind spot, because the beast totally missed one crucial detail. Hovering silently above its head are phantom archers drawing their bows and knocking 7-star fire arrows from both flanking positions. In a fraction of a second, 14 blazing arrows rain down like literal meteors. The wolf drops its head and tries to evade, but the sheer volume of attacks is totally inescapable. The flames devour the beast, shredding nearly 1,200 health points. Trapped in fire and fury, the alpha howls. Saul just laughs, flashing a confident smirk as he drops the bombshell. He has rigged the entire battlefield with illusion traps. Running away is literally impossible. Mid-speech, he casually takes a massive bite out of his crocodile meat and issues a deadly challenge. Let us see who outlasts who. Thanks to the high-grade meat, he instantly recovers 400 health points. Suddenly, the white wolf lets out a chilling, guttural growl. It charges forward, and right before our hero's eyes, it completely vanishes into thin air. Saul is genuinely caught off guard. What in the world just happened? Since when does this boss have an invisibility skill? That moment of hesitation costs him dearly. The alpha materializes right behind his back and delivers a merciless strike. His health bar takes another massive hit. Gritting his teeth against the searing pain, Saul suddenly connects the dots. This is the exact same broken skill the wolf used to wipe out the raiding party earlier. A split second later, the monster fades into the shadows again, only to reappear right in his face for another lethal swipe. It vanishes, reappears, strikes and repeats this terrifying loop over and over, until almost half of our hero's health points are completely wiped out. The relentless barrage leaves him absolutely zero breathing room to heal. All he can do is endure the agonizing pain. Then, as he turns his back, he spots the beast lunging straight for his neck one more time. But right at the very last microsecond, the tables completely turn. A hidden trap snaps shut, and the colossal beast is instantly paralyzed by our main character. A mocking smirk crosses his face. "Nice trick," he taunts. Sure, that blink strike is top tier, but it hides a massive blind spot. The range is absolute trash. By dropping a snare right in the crosshairs, the beast's own momentum turns into its literal downfall, serving up the perfect counter window. Without breaking a sweat, our main character draws his bowstring tight. He knocks a specialized shaft. "My turn," he whispers. The projectile explodes on impact, shredding nearly 200 hit points in a single heartbeat. But the alpha is not going down that easy. Blazing with pure, unfiltered rage, it shatters the bindings through sheer brute force. It retaliates with a devastating swipe, ripping a massive 800 chunk out of his health bar. Any normal player would be a goner. But our guy, he just flashes a wicked grin. This was all part of the master plan. He knew those low-tier traps could not hold a boss forever. That is exactly why he tanked that monstrous hit on purpose. He used his own flesh and blood as the ultimate bait to lock the beast down. All he needed was 3 precious seconds. Snap. The phantom summons materialize from the shadows, flooding the arena. In that exact fraction of a second, he chains an instant cast snare, while a web of hidden binds erupts from the earth, completely locking down the White Wolf boss. Saul takes his stance one last time. Channeling the legendary 7-star fire arrow, he delivers a chilling death sentence. His phantoms mirror the ultimate skill in perfect sync. 21 blazing meteors rain absolute destruction upon the trapped beast. Meanwhile, a couple of random noobs are out grinding in the same zone. Out of nowhere, the horizon literally ignites, mushroom clouding into what looks like a straight-up nuclear blast. They freeze in shock. Since when did this fantasy game drop actual nukes? For a hot minute, they legit think they just witnessed a hacker breaking the server. But honestly, the cinematic fireworks display is just too epic to look away from. Back at Ground Zero, Linger is absolutely hyped. In her eyes, the victory screen is basically already flashing. The Alpha's health bar has been completely melted down to just 75, and it is one hit away from being deleted. But our hero stays frosty, casually munching on some crocodile meat to pop his health regen while analyzing the chaotic clash. 9 of his phantom strikes missed the mark completely. If that entire combo had actually connected, the boss would have been instantly one-shotted. He realizes his micromanagement is still kinda trash, and he seriously needs to grind his illusion control if he wants to reach the absolute apex. Linger, literally shaking with adrenaline, screams at him to secure the kill and cash in that sweet quest experience. But Saul just brushes the dust off his shoulder. "Chill," he tells her, his voice ice-cold. "The raid is not over. There is still one loose end to tie up." While she stands there totally baffled, his eyes scan the wreckage with predator focus. Cut to the edge of the crater. Remember Federico, the guy who got utterly folded by the boss earlier? Yeah, he is still hugging the dirt, playing possum like a total coward. He is sweating bullets, wondering why the apocalyptic bass drop suddenly went dead silent. A spark of hope hits him. Did the monster actually wipe out Saul? But he is way too terrified to even twitch. If he stands up now, the entire squad will realize he was faking it the whole time. The social ruin would honestly be worse than a respawn penalty. But Saul's perception stat is way too high to miss a rat in the grass. Out of absolute nowhere, a razor-sharp arrow buries itself straight into the soil exactly 1 inch from Federico's nose. It was never meant to kill, just to send a crystal-clear message. The dude scrambles to his feet, shaking like a leaf and utterly mind-blown. He stares at the devastation, fully convinced Saul just soloed the regional boss. But our main character shuts that rumor down fast. "I didn't finish it off," he states, pointing to the barely breathing Alpha. Federico's knees instantly buckle. He drops into a desperate bow, practically worshipping the ground Saul walks on. He admits he was an absolute clown for doubting the goat, and starts begging for his virtual life. Now Saul is not exactly known for his forgiving nature, but today, he throws the pathetic guy a lifeline. He offers to spare him, and even let him leech the final boss experience points. But in this ruthless world, nothing comes for free. He needs a pawn. For Federico, the icy glare in Saul's eyes makes it feel like signing a contract with a literal demon lord. Honestly, our mastermind is still cooking up the exact details, so his new puppet just has to stay on standby. When the gears start turning, he will drop the coordinates. And just to ensure absolute loyalty, Saul casually draws his battle axe, letting the heavy steel catch the light. The unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air. This is not a negotiation, it is a hostage situation. Federico's face drains of all color. The political chess game is already in motion. Saul knows that Alexander is secretly plotting a massive guild coup behind the scenes, using rival corporate factions to forcefully overthrow him. Sure, Federico's family has some real-world clout, but in this cutthroat environment, it is basically worthless. Having a spineless noble as an inside man buys our hero crucial downtime, because the ticking clock is deafening. In exactly 6 months, the system will shatter the boundaries of reality, merging in-game stats directly into the real world. Before that apocalyptic server merge hits, Saul absolutely has to power level into a one-man army. Still trembling, Federico stammers out a weak protest. He points out a fatal flaw. What is stopping Saul from just executing him after the deal? Our hero's gaze turns frighteningly calm, because he states smoothly, "At the end of the day, you are a businessman. A true merchant never takes the first offer. Accepting a deal without a counteroffer, yeah, that's the ultimate red flag. In this brutal world, zero greed means zero trust. If you don't want something, you're definitely hiding a much darker agenda." The moment those words drop, Federico Perez does a total 180. He immediately bows his head shamelessly, calling him Big Brother Saul. Spilling all his secrets, Federico lays out his one demand. If Saul hard carries him to a higher level and locks down his throne, as the absolute boss of the Green Serpent Gang, then he'll become Saul's most loyal hunting dog, doing whatever it takes. Our MC agrees, without even sparing the guy a single glance. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashes 7 more lock-on strikes. Bullseye. Every single attack lands with devastating precision. The White Wolf boss, already clinging to its last drop of HP, eats the full combo, and triggers a massive earth-shattering explosion. As the dust clears, radiating absolute main character energy, Saul coolly declares the deal sealed. Staying true to his word, he lets Federico leech off that sweet, sweet boss EXP. Boom. The gang leader instantly skyrockets from level 8 straight to level 10. But Saul gets the lion's share, leveling up from 13 to 15 in a flash, and scores 14 unassigned stat points. The system chimes, granting him the elite Wolf Slayer title, instantly maxing out his reputation with the awestruck villagers. Federico is practically worshipping the ground he walks on, while Saul ruthlessly sweeps up every single piece of dropped loot. Securing his rightful drops, Saul shoots the gang leader an icy glare. "Drop the big brother act," he warns. He despises fake underlings trying to play family. The atmosphere freezes as Saul delivers a bone-chilling threat. "Drag my name into your dirty gang business. I will personally make you beg for the sweet release of death." Having witnessed that god-tier firepower firsthand, Federico's survival instincts kick in. Rebellion isn't even an option anymore. From this second onward, he and the entire Green Serpent Gang become his absolute shadow guard. The scene shifts back to reality. Saul casually calls out to Lingar, who is totally zoned out poking a random frog. Tossing a final glance at Fede, our MC promises to cash in this debt when the time is right. The gang boss drops into another deep 90-degree bow as the OP duo hits the road. But the journey back is anything but quiet. Lingar is literally hype-manning him nonstop. She keeps hyping up his insane battle stats, and then out of absolutely nowhere, proudly declares she is locking him down as her future husband. Saul stops dead in his tracks. The realization hits him like a freight train. His sarcastic little joke has completely backfired. Sweat dropping, he crouches down to do some serious damage control. He frantically explains it was just banter. I mean, come on, she is literally an NPC. Just a walking, talking pile of pixelated data in a tiny loudmouth package. If she keeps shouting hubby in public, people are gonna think he belongs on a watch list, which is 100% not his vibe. But Lingar, she is absolutely not having it. Zero hesitation, she goes full feral and chomps right into his arm. The supposedly invincible main character is instantly reduced to screeching in agony like a total wimp. Eyes blazing with fury, Lingar screams at the top of her lungs that she is not some little kid. She is a fully grown young woman. Saul desperately shakes her off aggressively, rubbing his throbbing arm. Seriously, he wonders what kind of twisted developer coded this chaotic gremlin, because her feral stats are off the charts. Taking a deep breath, he begs her to chill out for 2 seconds and give him absolute silence to open his hard-earned inventory. The White Wolf King drops some serious god-tier loot. Item number 1, the silver grade White Wolf leggings. These bad boys offer full leg protection and come with an insanely broken buff, a flat-out 100% boost to movement speed. Saul hits equip without a second thought. His agility stats double instantly. The wind rushes past him. He literally feels like he is defying gravity. Next up on the drop list, the silver grade Steel Wolf Claws. This weapon comes loaded with a deadly dash strike passive, allowing the user to flash step directly behind their target for a brutal, unblockable backstab. Saul takes one look and tosses them aside like absolute trash. To a player of his caliber, they are practically useless. Lingar's jaw drops in utter confusion, because to any normal player, that's a top-tier weapon. But Saul's eyes are locked onto the real prize, the ultimate crafting material, the pristine White Wolf Pelt. An incredibly rare drop worth an absolute fortune. Digging deeper into his inventory, his fingers brush against something else. A wicked smirk spreads across his face. Jackpot, a legendary tier summoning skill book, Wolf Minion. This overpowered ability lets him summon 2 lethal phantom wolves, beasts programmed with absolute true sight to hunt down and shred stealth enemies. Now we are talking. Finally, a skill worthy of his arsenal. Forking over 20 silver coins to the system, he instantly learns the skill binding the summons to his soul. The remaining loot, just a bunch of basic consumables, useful across various system interfaces. Meanwhile, cut back to the beginner village, where the tension is suffocating. Lady Gu is pacing around, absolutely losing her mind with worry, because Saul still hasn't returned with her precious daughter. Consumed by panic, she points an accusing finger at the village chief, raging at her for letting a defenseless child wander into a death zone with some random player. The chief is totally speechless, sweating bullets. But right before things escalate, 2 familiar silhouettes emerge from the forest mist. Saul and Lingar are back, completely unharmed. The village chief practically collapses in relief, while Lady Gu's heart finally starts beating again. Lingar sprints across the dirt path, throwing herself into her mother's desperate embrace. Tears of pure joy stream down Lady Gu's face. Not only did her daughter survive the wilderness, but this mysterious player kept his hands to himself, acting with total honor. Saul, zero interest in the emotional family reunion, casually tosses the ultra-rare wolf pelt straight into the chief's hands. Catching the legendary material, a sly, knowing smirk creeps onto the old woman's face. She chuckles, admitting she never actually expected this crazy rookie to pull off the impossible. Clearly, this guy is hiding some terrifying potential. Without missing a beat, she unrolls an ancient map pointing to a newly revealed secret location. This hidden encounter was strictly designed for players between levels 20 and 40. But if Saul wants to crash the party, he has to play by the rules. Normally, it would take a solid month of grinding just to scrape by with an F rank. But since our guy is so stubborn about rushing in, she is willing to bend the system. Since this is an unmapped hidden zone, the difficulty scaling is going to be absolutely brutal. But high risk means god-tier loot. Before wrapping things up, the village chief gives him one last, deadly serious warning to watch his back. Right on cue, a holographic system prompt chimes in, "Quest completed." With a confident smirk, Saul assures the chief that surviving is his specialty. Suddenly, Lingard comes sprinting toward him, her eyes wide, as she desperately asks if he is actually leaving them behind. Saul flashes a playful grin, jokingly asking if she wants to tag along for the ride. But the moment those words drop, Lady Gu intercepts them. She ruthlessly drags the girl away, scolding our main character for trying to rizz up her daughter. Honestly though, Lingard has caught some major feelings. She kicks and screams as she gets hauled off stubbornly, throwing a tantrum because she genuinely wants to join his party. With zero patience left, Lady Gu shoots Saul a glare and tells him to take his precious map and get out. But our boy is not done cooking just yet. He locks eyes with the village chief again, casually reminding her that a mutant wolf pelt is an ultra-rare drop. So trading an item like that for a basic piece of paper, yeah, that is giving major scammer energy. The chief narrows her eyes, thinking this rookie is trying to squeeze her dry. But Saul just shrugs, claiming he only wants fair market value. After all, in this brutal world, NPCs rarely cough up the good stuff unless you apply a little pressure. To prove his point, a blazing golden aura erupts from his body. The oppressive energy is heavy enough to make the chief actually sweat. Defeated, she lets out a heavy sigh and caves to his demands. With a flick of her wrist, she hands over an epic-tier skill book, Power Strike. This absolute nuke of an ability requires a 7-second charge time, but it boasts an armor-piercing effect that shreds enemies for 500 agility-based damage. Saul is genuinely shell-shocked. He had no clue the beginner village chief was secretly hoarding god-level treasures this whole time. The scene transitions to a misty riverbank, where Saul and the chief are walking side by side. Letting loose a blinding arrow, Saul literally splits the water wide open. He follows up by testing his new power strike and is left absolutely speechless. The sheer destructive force and pinpoint accuracy are unreal. The chief crosses her arms, smirking proudly as she reminds him that an epic skill is no joke. She brags that an attack like that could easily vaporize a small mountain from a distance. Saul just chuckles, throwing her a grateful smile. He playfully calls out her tough exterior, saying she is actually a total softie who loves rewarding players willing to grind. She then glances at the pouting Lingard, promising the girl that she will see our hero again, but only after she levels up and gets stronger. Lingard screams his name as Saul dashes off into the horizon, leaving her completely heartbroken. Bro, she is way too young to be crushing this hard, so let us just keep narrating. Making it to the outskirts on the other side of the river, Saul whips out the map of Roy City. The massive metropolis looks breathtaking in the distance, and pure hype courses through his veins as he prepares to conquer it post-regression. In his past life, his start here was an absolute disaster. He completely fumbled the bag and missed out on all the hidden boss raids, not to mention failing every single exclusive class quest back in the beginner zone. Because of those noob mistakes, he was stuck farming low-level cows for 2 agonizing months just to survive the trek to Roy City. And by the time he finally dragged himself through those city gates back then, all the top-tier loot had already been snatched up by whales. But this time, things are different. He memorized the exact spawn points of every premium boss chest and every single VIP NPC. It is time to abuse that regression knowledge to the max. His primary objective for dominating Roy City is crystal clear. The moment he hits level 40 and clears his Class Awakening quest, he will unlock the ultimate cheat, syncing his game stats with his real-world body. That is his ultimate endgame goal right now. But first, he has a date with a nasty boss named Alexander the Snake. Before stepping foot inside the city limits, though, he desperately needs to clear out his inventory. The plan is simple: liquidate all his trash mob drops into cold hard cash. He makes a beeline straight for the Grand Auction House. Near the VIP entrance, gorgeous girls in bunny suits are hustling to draw in the big spenders. Saul is genuinely blown away by the massive sea of players flooding the lobby. But for a merchant, a packed server is a beautiful sight. More foot traffic means his massive stockpile of gear will sell out in record time. Spotting him, one of the bunny attendants glides over. She sweetly asks if he is here to dump some loot or gamble on bids. Escorting him like a VIP, she leads him right to the registration desk. This is where the magic happens. He deposits his massive haul, grabs a bidding number, and watches his items hit the global market. If the auction is a success, the house takes a flat 10% cut of the profits, a small price to pay for instant wealth. The attendant then asks if he wants to activate streamer mode and hide his username. Our main character does not even hesitate. The last thing he wants is to go viral. He would rather die than deal with annoying party invites, desperate guild recruiters, or random noobs begging him for carries all day long. So he slaps on the anonymous tag. Moments later, he steps into the sprawling live auction hall to watch the chaos unfold, and taking center stage is an unbelievably stunning female auctioneer. The moment she steps under the spotlight, every guy in the room practically drools. She reveals the main event, the bronze tier Ring of Greed. The catch: you need over 10% base luck just to equip this bad boy. Some creepy dude in the front row calculates if this trash tier loot is even worth grabbing, but the auctioneer drops a massive hint, purring that the real treasure is not the ring itself but the gold it brings. Hearing that, a memory sparks in Saul's mind. This seemingly garbage bronze trinket, it is actually a one-of-a-kind hidden artifact. His past life knowledge kicks into overdrive. He remembers its final form, the legendary diamond tier gold ring. This absolute cheat item boosts base luck by 50%, drastically multiplies all dropped loot and cash, and flat-out guarantees gold tier gear from any monster over level 30. Evolving this thing to diamond tier would basically break the game's economy forever. The crowd tosses out pitifully low bids, treating it like an absolute joke. But our boy Saul does not hesitate for a single second. He raises his hand and drops a flat 1 gold coin bid. The entire auction hall freezes in pure shock, throwing solid gold at a useless bronze accessory, total main character energy. But then the plot thickens. A random guy in the back suddenly barks out a bid for 10 gold coins. The crowd collectively loses their minds. Bronze gear never sells for gold. The whispers start flying, calling both of these guys complete lunatics who lost touch with reality. The mystery bidder locks eyes with our hero, flashing a knowing glare that screams he knows the secret too. That intense stare sets off major alarm bells. Does this random NPC actually know the ring's hidden potential? Saul figures out the game, but he is not backing down. Without blinking, he casually bumps the price to 30 gold. The rival bidder grinds his teeth as the stakes skyrocket aggressively, throwing down 50 gold coins. He shoots Saul a cocky smirk, totally trying to flex and imply our boy is way too broke to match him. But Saul is completely unbothered. He raises his hand again and deadpans 100 gold coins. You could hear a pin drop in that room. The sheer Giga Chad energy completely shuts down the rival's confidence. The auctioneer wastes zero time. The hammer slams down, securing the ultimate steal for our main character. After the show, Saul slips the greedy ring onto his finger and checks his system interface. His overpowered evolution skill is still stuck on an 8-hour cooldown timer. Once that clock hits 0 and the ring transforms, his path to infinite wealth is completely locked in. Meanwhile, the salty rival glares daggers at him from the shadows, swearing bloody revenge on Saul. Saul just catches the glare and tilts his head, totally baffled by this guy's massive ego problem. They do not even know each other. Saul just sighs, realizing he literally has 0 time for this extra drama. Suddenly, a sweet voice calls out, and a soft hand brushes against his cheek. He spins around to find the stunning auctioneer from the stage, pressing herself dangerously close to his personal space. Clinging to his arm with a dangerously alluring smile, she whispers that she is all his for the night. Saul's brain completely short-circuits. He is totally lost. He has no idea what she means or how a player could literally belong to someone else. The girl giggles, telling him to stop playing innocent. She assumes he dropped all that insane cash just to buy a night with her. The realization hits him, and he feels instantly repulsed. He physically recoils, cringing hard at the sheer audacity of this bizarre VIP service. But she keeps leaning in, practically promising him the ultimate immersive experience right there on the spot. Even inside a virtual reality game, she swears to make it unforgettable. But our hero is entirely unamused. He literally only wanted the shiny loot, not a random romance side quest he never signed up for. He gently but firmly pushes her away, dropping the cold, hard truth. She looks great, but his mind is purely on the grind. He basically tells her to take a rain check entirely, rejecting her advances without a second thought. As she fixes her dress in pure confusion, her eyes dart past Saul, and the color drains from her face. A creeping, deformed shadow is lurking right behind them. The girl's seductive vibe instantly shatters like prey spotting a predator, or more accurately, a sewer rat. Saul quickly pivots, his combat instincts flaring at the sudden ambush. The twisted old man flashes a sickening grin, hissing that he has some very special underground inventory. He invites Saul to check out his hidden wares. Our overpowered main character decides to play along, purely curious if this creepy merchant actually holds top-tier loot. But the old man's glowing eyes hint at a much darker trap. Saul is nothing but a spoiled rich kid. At least that is what the old merchant thinks after watching him drop 100 gold coins on a busted bronze ring. To the greedy vendor, Saul is a walking ATM with money to burn on absolute garbage. He just needs a little push. The merchant immediately rolls out his inventory. He flexes some basic leather armor, bronze spiked boots, a silver wind bow, a bullhorn made of iron bone, and to top it off, a literal flower crown. Our main character stares at the spread with dead eyes. Only one word echoes in his mind. Pure, unadulterated trash, but the old man aggressively hypes up the silver bow as a legendary artifact, demanding a ridiculous 200,000 gold coins for it. Saul does not even blink. He flat out refuses to buy such absolute garbage. His icy words shatter the atmosphere. The merchant's jaw drops. He is totally mortified that some kid just insulted his entire stash. His face twists into a mask of pure rage. Without warning, he lunges forward and grabs our hero by the collar. Barking threats, the old man demands an apology. And by apology, he means forcing Saul to empty his wallet, or else he is going to beat him to a pulp. But this foolish NPC has zero clue. He is messing with the absolute wrong player. In a split second, Saul unleashes his suffocating pitch-black aura. The air grows instantly heavy. The old man practically jumps back in pure terror. Raw panic flashes across his eyes. Suddenly, the girl who has been shadowing Saul all night steps right into the spotlight. She stands her ground like a fierce protector. She fiercely tells the sweaty merchant to back off. She firmly reminds him that her boss already said no. Then she shoots a glaring look toward the auction house security. She warns the old fool that shady under-the-table deals always end badly here. Honestly, the guards have been watching this clown for a while. Realizing his little scam is completely busted, the merchant furiously stomps away, throwing a massive temper tantrum and calling everyone in the room an idiot. Meanwhile, Saul is secretly boiling with murderous intent. If they were not standing inside a strict safe zone, where fighting gets you permanently banned from the auction house, he would have already sent this geezer straight back to the respawn point. Shaking off the rage, he turns to his female companion with a sly smirk. He teases her, saying that since she is so desperate to be his for the night, she will probably do whatever he asks. Her face instantly turns tomato red. She stammers out a nervous giggle before aggressively nodding. Saul then drops his master plan. Her mission is simple: hold down the fort at the auction house and keep a close eye on the market. In exchange, he is going to funnel her the profits from 3 silver-tier weapons. He is expecting a massive payout of around 800 gold coins. Her one and only job is to protect the bag, and if any refinement chips pop up on the board, she needs to buy every single one of them without hesitation. The girl is totally stunned. Her brain is short-circuiting over the fact that this absolute Chad wants to help her, and that her only so-called tough job is just pulling an all-nighter at the auction house. Our hero smoothly adds that she has pretty high-tier looks. Just standing there looking gorgeous will intimidate the competition. According to his pro-gamer logic, players will basically throw money at her feet. But the girl has never met a guy playing 4D chess like this. She is completely baffled that his only desire for the night is for her to grind the market. Her paranoia kicks in, suspecting some dark ulterior motive, so she tries to back out. But the second, Saul casually mentions, paying her a fat bonus. Her entire demeanor flips. She accepts the quest with burning enthusiasm, standing at attention like his personal soldier. Saul tells her to stay on the grind and promises to swing by later. The moment his silhouette disappears, tears of joy stream down her face. In her eyes, Saul is the ultimate Sigma male, rich, handsome, and totally unbothered. He just single-handedly saved her night with his kindness. But back to the game lore, a refinement chip is actually a totally broken top-tier material used to unlock hidden items. Players will desperately need them once they unlock the legendary Roy City, but the drop rate for these things is insanely brutal. However, before map number 2 finally opens up, new players just toss them into the market, treating them like worthless shiny rocks, completely blind to their endgame value. Armed with this future knowledge, Saul struts right into a local blacksmith shop to upgrade his gear, but he steps into a hilariously chaotic scene. A massive, hulking giant of a man is bawling his eyes out like a literal toddler because he dropped his favorite hammer. Through loud, ugly sobs, the giant cries that he would rather face a game over than live without his precious tool. Saul casually interrupts the massive crybaby and holds out the exact hammer he found earlier. The vibe shift is insane. The giant instantly stops crying and his face lights up with absolute euphoria, drowning in gratitude. He swears a blood oath that if our hero ever needs gear upgraded, he will do it 100% for free. Little did anyone know, this entire shop was part of a legendary hidden quest. Armed with absolute cheat code, knowledge from his strategy guide, Saul finally tracks down this hidden legendary forge. The secret unlock condition, finding the lost hammer guarantees you one absolutely free max tier gear enhancement. Not wasting a single heartbeat, Saul whips out his bow. His one demand, push this bad boy to its absolute limits. But here is the real game changer. This place does not just hammer out epic gear, they actually sell low-level crafting loot right on the shelves. That means no more tedious grinding. Saul can completely skip slaughtering trash-tier mobs just to farm basic drop items. It is an absolute win for him. The blacksmith takes the job and barely 20 minutes later, he steps back out from the blazing heat. Handing over the fully upgraded weapon, the smith reveals his work. But honestly, our hero feels a little let down that the epic process was over in a flash. The reality check hits hard. The master smith admits he could only push the bow to level 10, completely bottlenecked by a massive lack of premium materials. Honestly, if it was not for that free enhancement, the total material cost would have easily cleared 20 gold coins. Saul grips his newly upgraded bow, immediately feeling the massive power shift. The weapon practically hums with a deadly new responsiveness. Playing it cool, he tells the nervous blacksmith to chill out. After all, he is already plotting to swap this out for a top-tier weapon real soon anyway. With a casual wave, our main character steps out of the stifling forge, leaving the awestruck craftsman behind. As he hits the streets, his mind shifts straight to Roy City. He knows the insane scaling there. Once you hit level 20, the boss level cap skyrockets to 60. It is an absolute death zone crawling with fierce competitors. Playing it smart, he decides to lay low until his evolution skill cooldown finally resets. Before he can even make a move toward the city, the scenery shifts to an eerily silent forest. Saul is just minding his business, weaving through the thick trees, when a sudden killing intent spikes. A lethal arrow rips through the air, aiming straight for his head. His crazy reflexes kick in just in time. He snaps his head to the side, but the razor-sharp arrowhead grazes his cheek, leaving a crimson trail of blood. Stepping out of the shadows is none other than his salty rival from the auction house. Yep, the exact same guy who lost the bidding war over that gold coin. The ambusher goes wide-eyed with absolute shock. He clearly did not expect a supposedly weak archer to dodge a blind spot assassination attempt. Saul spots him instantly and tries to diffuse the tension. He points out that if this whole ambush is just over some petty auction beef, they seriously need to talk it out. He makes it crystal clear. He only bought the gear because he needed the stats, zero disrespect intended. But the heavily armored warrior just smirks, his voice dripping with malice as he declares, "It is way too late for apologies." Saul lets out a heavy, exhausted sigh. Guess the universe just hates him today. All the guy wanted was a few chill hours to grind in peace. But instead, he is dragged right into this toxic mess. The arrogant warrior suddenly lets out a piercing whistle. On cue, a whole squad of shady thugs melts out of the tree line, completely boxing him in. But as Saul scans the crowd, his eyes lock onto a sight that instantly drops the temperature in the forest. One of the grunts is violently gripping his terrified employee. The poor girl is thrashing around in pure panic, tears streaming down her face. Saul stands dead still, his aura turning ice cold as these bottom feeders tighten their trap and manhandle his worker like a piece of trash. The absolute audacity of these guys. They loudly brag that she belongs to them for the night, forcefully claiming her as their new property. Our main character knows this trash-tier behavior all too well. These scumbags have zero honor. The salty auction rival steps to the front, clearly nursing a massively bruised ego just because our guy outbid him. Flashing a completely punchable smirk, he starts talking trash. He mocks Saul, claiming anyone stupid enough to drop 100 gold coins on bronze-tier garbage must be absolutely loaded. Then comes the real demand. If Saul is carrying around so much premium loot, it is only fair he donates it all to their guild right now. The captive girl totally breaks down. Through heavy sobs, she confesses that these monsters already jumped her and looted all the leftover funds. Worse yet, they swiped every single one of the precious refinement chips. Suddenly, that exact same arrogant old man who tried to scam Saul earlier creeps up to her. The loyal girl glares daggers at him, completely disgusted by how badly they are underestimating her boss. She knows the absolute truth. Crossing a monster like Saul is a guaranteed one-way ticket to the graveyard. But the delusional old fool refuses to listen to reason. Without a shred of hesitation, he viciously backhands her, sending the fragile girl crashing to the dirt in a fit of agonizing tears. Snap. Something inside Saul completely breaks. His voice drops into an eerily calm, terrifying register. He straight up tells them that stealing his loot is one thing, but laying a finger on his people, humiliating a defenseless girl right in front of him, that right there just signed their actual death warrants. For a split second, the heavy killing intent makes the thugs freeze, but then they burst into a chorus of obnoxious, mocking laughter. To these meatheads, Saul is just role-playing the edgy main character, all bark, zero bite, and desperately trying to sound cool for the cameras. Pushing his luck, the most massive bruiser in the squad steps up, towering over the fallen girl, while throwing death threats right at our guy's face. His massive boots practically crush the poor girl into the earth. And that is the final straw. An ancient volcanic rage erupts from deep within Saul's soul, a level of fury he never even knew he possessed. Boom. The very atmosphere shatters. Our protagonist unleashes a shockwave of pure, devastating pressure that violently rattles the bones of every single thug in the forest. One clueless grunt still tries to flex, lunging forward with a cocky grin plastered on his face. But before he even blinks, Saul ghosts right through his defense. Appearing instantly in his face, he whispers two chilling words, too slow. The remaining backup stands paralyzed in pure horror. They seriously thought this guy would not cross the line to actual murder. But Saul, he is way past giving a damn. His eyes glow with otherworldly power as he summons his spectral legion. The shadows beneath them instantly rip open, answering their master's call. An apocalyptic rain of hellfire arrows completely blitzes the enemy ranks. Every single explosive strike proves exactly who the real apex predator is in this zone. The ambushers are violently vaporized into digital dust. Their agonizing final screams echo through the woods, playing like absolute music to Saul's ears. Moments after the massacre, the dust finally settles, and stumbling out from the bloody tree line is the very same salty auction rival who started this entire nightmare. This time around, his whole vibe does a complete 180. Throwing his hands up in surrender, he scrambles to backtrack, swearing up and down that he didn't mean any harm. He claims he just didn't realize how insanely overpowered Saul truly was. He even has the audacity to call the guys our boy just wiped out total NPCs, bragging that he could have easily trashed them himself if push came to shove. Then he drops his name Shibu, the guy sitting pretty at rank number 5 on the global leaderboards. He casually explains that while Saul was busy taking out the trash, he activated his weakness detection skill to analyze his every move. And bingo, he hit the jackpot. He figured out Saul's hidden class, a literal ghost hunter. Our MC just glares at him with absolute zero emotion, flat out asking what the old man plans to do with that intel. Shibu's brain works in overdrive, piecing the puzzle together. If the rumors are true, that makes Saul the undisputed #1 player in the entire world. Saul just shrugs it off, basically confirming his god-tier status like it's no big deal. Catching on to the deadly vibe, Shibu moves fast. He whips out the 400 gold coins and the 70 refinement shards his crew had just hijacked. He plays it off, claiming he's returning the loot out of the pure goodness of his heart. Snatching the drops right out of thin air, Saul weighs the heavy bags of gold to verify the stash. The payout is spot on, but his eyes, they're still colder than ice, completely seeing right through the snake's lies. Trying to capitalize on the moment, Shibu pitches a massive partnership to build a brand new syndicate from the ground up. He hypes up how their combined stats could literally glitch the system for infinite cash. He's promising the ultimate dream, unlimited wealth, godlike authority, and flexing like a total baller every single night. Saul just stands there letting the guy yap while he casually pockets his hard-earned cash. But the second Shibu stops talking, Saul shuts him down. Zero hesitation, just a brutal flat-out rejection. It's honestly laughable that a rank 5 scrub would even dare to propose a team-up to the peak of the food chain. Our guy is a one-man army. Shibu's face twists into a scowl as he finally asks what the heck Saul actually wants out of this. The answer drops like an absolute bombshell. Revenge. Shibu is completely clueless about the deep lore behind that word. Knowing when to fold him, he turns his back, tossing out a fake friendly reminder that his DMs are always open. But our MC, he is not even close to being done with this clown. In a flash, a blazing arrow of pure fire completely shatters the air. It slams into the dirt right in front of Shibu, deadlocking his escape route. Reality finally hits Shibu like a freaking freight train. The mess he just stepped into is severely out of his league. Whipping around in pure panic, his survival instincts scream red alert. He barks out, demanding to know who just tried to snipe him from the shadows. That shot didn't just cut off his exit, it actually clipped his leg, drawing first blood. But as he fully turns, his jaw hits the floor. He's staring dead into the eyes of Saul's shadow clone, radiating absolute menace. Sweating bullets, Shibu tries to play the bro card to de-escalate the tension. He stammers that it's totally cool if he wants to play solo, begging him not to start a guild war. Then he tries to flex his rank 5 status, bragging about his premium life insurance policy within the system. He warns that if Saul catches a body today, the system will definitely flag him with a cursed red player tag. In his boomer brain, he honestly thinks our MC is too rookie to handle the severe penalties of a PK status. He is drastically underestimating the absolute demon he's dealing with. Out of nowhere, 2 ethereal phantoms manifest right beside the old man. They instantly lock him down, aiming their spectral bows straight at his vitals before he can even blink. With ice in his veins, Saul tells him he couldn't care. What actually disgusts him are bottom feeders, absolute backstabbers who would sell out their own squad just to save their own skin. As the words leave his mouth, Saul draws back another glowing arrow to its absolute limit. Suddenly, it all clicks for Shibu. His galaxy brain strategy to sacrifice his own guildmates just to secure an audience with the #1 player. It totally backfired. Paralyzed by sheer terror, he screams for a timeout, begging for his miserable life. But his free trial of living has officially expired. Boom, a blinding blast hits with the raw kinetic force of a literal nuke. Shibu and his pathetic legacy are instantly wiped from the server, reduced to absolute ash. Seconds later, a massive golden system prompt flashes across every single player's retina. The server-wide broadcast screams the unbelievable, Saul just deleted Shibu from existence. It doxes his exact coordinates in the Dark Night Forest, and drops the craziest bounty yet, 50,000 gold coins to whoever manages to take the king down. The global chat absolutely explodes, caught between pure panic and massive hype. It's terrifying that 2 top 5 titans just clashed, and one got completely erased. But that god-tier bounty, it has every single bounty hunter seeing dollar signs. Guilds are already plotting, convinced that if they Zerg rush him with massive numbers, they might actually stand a chance against Saul Van Stralen. What they don't realize is that our boy is a walking natural disaster, leagues above all of them combined. Meanwhile, the absolute raid boss himself just glares at his status screen with utter disgust. Not because he caught a major body and triggered a server-wide manhunt, but because he couldn't help but scoff at the brutal capitalistic reality of the system. When a low-level nobody drops dead, the world stays silent. But the second a top-ranked player with premium insurance bites the dust, the entire server gets a push notification and the killer is instantly slapped with a massive bounty. At the end of the day, cold hard cash is the absolute king of this realm. Cutting through his thoughts, Valentina, the girl running his underground errands, nervously steps up and asks why he hasn't bolted yet. She points out that a bounty of 50,000 gold coins is practically raid boss territory. Entire guilds are swarming their coordinates right now, and they only have seconds before all hell breaks loose. Even with a literal army breathing down his neck, Saul doesn't even flinch. He coolly brushes off the panic, mentioning he hasn't squared up his tab with her yet. Without missing a beat, he drops the full 400 gold coins. They grinded together straight into her hands. Valentina completely short-circuits, her eyes pooling with heavy tears. As the sheer weight of that fortune sets in, barely above a whisper, she confesses that if she can just hustle a tiny bit more, she can finally buy back her freedom. Those words instantly trigger Saul's protective instincts. His gaze darkens as he demands to know if she's being forced into this shady business, treated like a disposable slave. He urges her to drop the act, needing to uncover exactly how many innocent players are trapped in this nightmare alongside her. A deep blush spreads across her face before she speaks. She nervously admits she doesn't know how deep the corruption goes, but there is one chilling fact she is completely certain of. Every single one of them is chained to the Rising Sun Corporation. The ground practically crumbles beneath Saul's feet, because that is his own freaking empire. He chokes out a hollow apology, the toxic sting of betrayal burning his throat. Picking up on his sudden emotional crash, Valentina softly begs him to drop the subject, and Saul honors her boundary. Then, totally out of nowhere, she lunges forward and plants a quick, desperate kiss right on his cheek. Saul's brain completely reboots his face, turning an explosive shade of red, like he just walked out of a high-end charisma buff. Flushing with extreme embarrassment, she thanks him for his ridiculous kindness, actually calling him her absolute savior. Tripping over her own words, she stammers a frantic goodbye and dashes into the shadows. Watching her silhouette fade out, Saul's aura turns absolutely freezing. Inside his own company, the only executive twisted enough to run a shadow operation like this has to be Alexander. And if it isn't him, there is definitely another rat scurrying in the ranks. He swears to himself that heads will roll once he uncovers the truth. But lost in his own simmering rage, he totally misses the lethal blindside. A blazing fireball rips through the air, locked dead on his spine. But Saul's battle instincts are already legendary. He pivots with terrifying calm, smirking that the hunting dogs managed to track him down this fast. With a casual flick of his wrist, he completely shatters the incoming spell, a wild grin spreading across his face. It looks like today's grind is going to be incredibly entertaining with this much fresh meat. Right on cue, a massive mob of bounty hunters swarms the zone. Saul snaps his tiger mask into place, his battle aura erupting. He glares down the horde, knowing every single player stepping into his aggro radius is marching straight to the graveyard. But then, right in the vanguard, a familiar face glitches his focus. It is Federico, the boss of the Green Snake Gang. The same guy he carried just days ago, now waving at him like an absolute fanboy. Federico launches himself straight toward Saul, looking like he is going for a full-on tackle. But mid-vault, an overwhelming killing intent completely paralyzes him. A spectral archer has a spirit arrow locked dead between Federico's eyes. The gang boss literally freezes in midair, sweating bullets. In a fraction of a second, Saul flashes forward, grabbing him by the collar with monstrous grip strength, roaring to know if this snake backstabbed him. Just hours after they teamed up, Federico shrieks for his life, desperately begging the absolute unit in front of him to chill out. He frantically swears it is a massive misunderstanding, and he only came to provide backup. Saul's devastating right hook stays frozen barely an inch from shattering the guy's jaw as Federico whips his head around to his guildmates and barks an absolute guild order. From this exact second on, they will address Saul as their big boss and treat him like literal royalty. Without a moment of hesitation, the entire roster of the Green Snake Gang drops into a perfectly synchronized bow of absolute loyalty. Saul twitches an eyebrow, dropping the breathless gang leader and asking what kind of weird roleplay this is. Federico, gasping for air like he just dodged a server wipe, squares his shoulders with dead serious dedication. He declares his gang's exclusive raid objective for today. Any trash player who even thinks about stepping into Saul's personal space is getting brutally beat down until they beg for mercy. Saul just stares at him, utterly baffled, asking if the guy accidentally consumed some legendary dragon meat to suddenly act this crazy brave. Federico flashes a sly, street-smart grin, boasting that this is his new character arc. Even if he aggroes a top-tier ranker and gets completely wiped out, he can act as a meat shield farming intel until his overpowered boss arrives to sweep the floor with them. Hearing this ridiculous level of dedication, Saul's icy demeanor actually thaws a bit. He finally sees the hustle in this guy. Realizing this exact street smarts and sheer audacity is exactly how Federico built a whole guild with such trash tier stats. Still, Saul is a solo player at heart. He gives a genuine nod of respect for the backup, but orders Federico and his squad to immediately fall back and survive. Before anyone else catches a stray, Saul insists on wiping out the trash himself. Federico is sweating bullets, begging him to lay low in a safe house for a bit. But Saul completely shuts that down. He sees this as the perfect flex to send a brutal message, straight to the one family. It is time they stop throwing his name around like a cheap threat. Hearing this absolute boss energy, the Green Snake Gang stare at him in pure shock. A second later, the hype is totally unreal. They are screaming his praises, hyping him up as a literal god-tier expert. The scene cuts. A little later, Saul is taking a totally chill stroll through the dark woods, acting clueless that a pair of eyes is locked right on him. Spamming a skill called weakness detection. Hiding behind the thick tree lines, a massive bald dude glares at our boy with absolute disgust. He is scoffing hard, thinking a 530,000 gold coin bounty on a string bean like Saul is the biggest joke ever. Little does this camper know an even bulkier shadow is creeping up right behind him. Out of nowhere, it is a total beatdown. Savage punches rain down until the bald guy is completely knocked out cold. The attacker, a stealthy Green Snake Gang member on cleanup duty, erasing the trash before it even touches Saul. Meanwhile, Saul just keeps walking like it is a walk in the park. Federico steps up right beside him, casually bragging that the small fry have been handled. But Saul is not vibing with that false sense of security. His instincts are screaming that heavy hitters are lurking in the shadows. To double-check, he taps into his beast vision, scanning the whole zone straight through the eyes of his familiar wolf. From that killer vantage point, he watches a rival squad get absolutely wiped out by random players. Processing the crazy intel, he warns Federico that whoever survived this bloodbath is guaranteed to be seriously overpowered. Suddenly, he stops dead in his tracks, sweeping the area with laser focus. Federico catches the vibe shift and asks what is wrong. Panic creeping into his voice, Federico double-checks if Saul actually wants to keep pushing forward because honestly, Federico is the literal last man standing from his squad. His final teammate just got sent back to the lobby. Still somewhat in denial about the brutal reality, Federico blows a sharp whistle to rally his crew back. But the Deadwoods answer with bone-chilling silence. Absolute terror grips him not from the fear of dying but the crushing guilt of failing his guild again. Desperate, he spins toward Saul, begging for a game plan. But our main character, he is cool as ice. He simply drops a low whistle. Instantly, massive white wolves materialize out of thin air. Their glowing silhouettes flood out from the tree line, boxing them in completely. Federico thinks they are getting ambushed and frantically charges up his mana, ready to throw down. But Saul casually raises one hand, telling him to chill. Dropping into a crouch, he starts aggressively petting these deadly beasts like they are golden retrievers, praising them for being good boys. While scratching their ears, he drops the bomb that these are his personal summons scattered everywhere to farm intel. Seeing this insane flex, the reality finally hits Federico like a truck. Saul is a walking one-man army pulling off stunts that break every rule in the system. He realizes the main character is practically live streaming data directly from his wolf pack. Saul casual flexes that the scouting radius on these bad boys is completely busted, giving him total map hacks over every single inch of the forest. Standing tall, he hits the guild leader with some crazy math. Exactly. 76 assassins pulled up to claim his bounty, and right now, only 2 are left breathing. Federico is totally mind-blown by that body count. The sheer scale of the ambush hits him, and he knows damn well his entire gang would have been instantly deleted by those numbers. Saul drops another lore bomb. His Shadow Specters did most of the dirty work, and they are currently off-screen, sweeping up the final scraps. Federico is practically choking on thin air, finally admitting that Saul is built completely different. He mutters that if he had even 1% of that crazy aura, he would not be such dead weight. Saul gives him some solid bro advice, telling him not to sweat the power scaling right now, because keeping his guild alive is way more boss level than throwing his life away for some toxic ego trip. But just as the wholesome vibes start to settle, an explosive presence shatters, the silence crashing their little bro moment. Turns out, the last 2 targets are not just randoms, they are a deadly sibling duo. The guy glares at Saul totally triggered, complaining that tracking down his coordinates was an absolute nightmare. With an army of meat shields blocking the way, they had to stack up a massive kill count just to reach the VIP. While the villain monologues, Saul gets straight to business. He pops weakness detection and quietly reads their stat blocks. The loudmouth guy is sitting pretty at rank 23. A level 8 explorer going by the edgy handle King Cruel, but his sister, her stats are way more terrifying. Rank 8 on the server, a level 10 summoner named Haigui. Honestly, our boy is not even surprised. Surviving this far took more than just luck. With insane stats, sharp instincts, and undeniable raw power, it was no surprise they were still breathing. Saul's gaze shifted to the leader, calling him boss. With an ice-cold smirk, he dropped the bomb. It was finally his time to steal the spotlight. Federico stiffened instantly. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he stammered out a question. Was the boss seriously throwing him to the wolves alone? Saul casually laid out the facts. Wiping out these 2 clowns would guarantee a massive spike in their ranking. More importantly, it was a test. Saul needed to see if this kid would crack under pressure. Hesitation flashed in Federico's eyes, but he eventually gave a stiff nod. Despite his shaking knees, he embraced the challenge. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, Cruel King was calculating his next move in dead silence. The previous clashes had left a lingering suspicion, miscreamed, that a hidden scout was lurking in the shadows. One burning question consumed his mind. In a lethal draw, whose arrow would strike first, his own or the phantom sniper's? Breaking the tension, Federico stepped up to the plate. Glaring daggers at the enemy duo, he ordered them to fall back boldly, daring one of them to make the first move. Hai's radar instantly went off. Her sharp senses pierced right through the bluff. The real monster was hiding in the backlines. Sneering with pure disgust, she labeled Federico a mere guard dog. And in her eyes, the mutt always had to be put down first. Taking the bait, Cruel King fired his own verbal shots. He mocked Saul endlessly, branding him a pathetic coward for hiding behind his lackey. But Saul did not even flinch. A lazy, arrogant smirk crept onto his face. To him, this wasn't a life-or-death battle. It was prime-time entertainment. The disrespect acted like gasoline on Federico's pride. Rage blazed in his eyes as he branded them arrogant fools. He launched himself forward, roaring his title as the absolute boss of the Green Snake Gang. He believed he was utterly invincible. But reality hit him like a freight train. Before he could even blink, massive boulders erupted from the earth, instantly swallowing him whole. The stone prison crushed him completely. Crimson spilled from his lips as the system flashed a brutal warning. Minus 300 experience points in a single heartbeat. Looking down at him like trash, Hai told him to shut his mouth. The terrifying truth was finally out. She was the master of the legendary Shadow Giant summoning art. Refusing to stay down, Federico triggered his furious giant skill. Muscles bulging with explosive power, he violently shattered the rocky tomb into a million pieces. But his victory was short-lived. Hai casually raised her other hand. In a flash of dark energy, a colossal stone beast materialized right in his face. It formed an impenetrable wall. Total disbelief washed over Federico. Even completely buffed up, his heaviest strikes felt like throwing pebbles at a mountain. Hai gloated with chilling calmness. Her shadow giant boasted the ultimate defense mechanism. Breaking it was flat-out impossible. Not only was it an unbreakable shield, it was a devastating weapon that could strike simultaneously. That was the absolute terror of a true shadow summoner. Hanging back in the VIP section, Saul watched the bloodbath unfold. His eyes sparked with genuine amusement. The summoning tech was actually top tier. Honestly, he was grabbing metaphorical popcorn for this show. But suddenly, a glitch in the matrix hit another corner of the battlefield. Without even shifting his shoulders, Saul spoke to the empty air. He casually dropped Cruel King's name. The assassin's blood ran ice cold. Panic gripped his mind as reality set in. How was his stealth blown? He had literally burned an epic-tier teleportation skill just to flank his blind spot. A split second later, the assassin snapped his head back, only to find two nightmarish phantoms already breathing down his neck. The wraiths showed zero mercy. They slammed him into the dirt with bone-crushing force, pinning his face directly into the mud. Saul did not even glance back as he delivered a chilling warning. Be a good little dog and stay down. The boss was busy watching his favorite show. Once the curtains closed, he would personally deal with the trash. Those deadpan words sent a wave of pure terror down Cruel King's spine. Tuning out the whimpering assassin, Saul locked his focus back onto his underling. The frontline brawl was reaching its boiling point. Federico was pouring his soul into crushing Hai and her rocky pet. But the power gap was an absolute joke. The golem snatched him up like a rag doll and cratered him into the earth. Tasting dirt and blood, Federico finally realized he was hopelessly outmatched in raw physical stats. But a desperate plan sparked in his mind. His agility was his trump card. If he blitzed them, he might flip the script. That pathetic hope was annihilated exactly 1 second later. The lumbering stone beast practically teleported behind him. Its massive rocky fingers clamped around his arm with bone-snapping pressure. Heavy curses slipped through Federico's gritted teeth as pure panic began hijacking his nervous system. Above the chaos, Hai observed her prey with dead-eyed perfection. Tilting her head, she dropped a genuinely curious question. Why throw his life away for a guy like Saul, especially since his precious boss was currently a server-wide wanted criminal? She even dangled a golden carrot in front of him. Switch sides right now, and they could split the massive bounty 50-50. Federico stared back at her like she had grown two heads. Was this chick completely out of her mind? Betraying Saul was a one-way ticket to hell. He had witnessed the apocalyptic power sleeping inside that man, and there was absolutely zero chance he was ever going to stand on the wrong side of that devastating aura. Hai rolled her eyes, scoffing at his pathetic loyalty. If the idiot wanted to play a tragic hero, she would gladly give him a free ticket straight back to the respawn point. Negotiations were officially terminated. The Shadow Beast hoisted him into the air and started using him to pave the battlefield, smashing him down again and again. Every single impact cracked more bones and drained more health. The towering monstrosity slowly dragged its feet, looming over the broken leader like the Grim Reaper. Refusing to let him catch a single breath, it clamped its massive hands around his throat, squeezing with murderous intent. The suffocating pressure built up by the millisecond. Federico's vision faded to black right up until the very air around them violently exploded. The chaotic energy fizzles out. Federico reverts to his base form, crashing onto the dirt like a broken doll. Hai glares down at him, genuinely mind-blown that this dude is somehow still breathing. The guild leader lies completely paralyzed, his body completely wrecked and dripping with battle scars. Meanwhile, Hai casually strolls around the battlefield like she owns the place. With an icy tone, she declares that Saul is up next on the chopping block. She promises to deliver a brutal reality check, ready to teach him the deadly hierarchy of this world. But right at that split second, Federico scrapes together his very last ounce of willpower. He weakly grabs her arm silently, begging her to drop it. Simultaneously, that massive shadow beast pivots, locking its death glare straight onto our main character. Yet Saul does not even flinch. Zero fear, zero rage. Just a dangerously calm, mocking smirk playing on his lips. Hai clicks her tongue in pure disgust, muttering that Federico is nothing but pathetic trash. Without missing a beat, she brutally kicks him away, commanding her shadow beast to crush him into dust. The monstrous entity lunges at the fallen leader. Federico starts violently shaking. Pure, unadulterated terror violently courses through every single nerve in his body. as he watches a literal mountain of darkness eclipsing his vision. And then, boom, a blinding lightning bolt violently tears through the sky. When Federico finally forces his eyes open, the entire battlefield has completely flipped. All the arrogant color has completely drained from Hai's face. That unstoppable shadow monster, completely wiped off the map, vaporized into absolute nothingness. Hei stares at the empty space, totally paralyzed. Her brain literally cannot process the glitch in reality. Saul just one-shotted her ultimate Shadow Titan without even breaking a sweat. Instant regret starts eating her alive. Saul casually drops the mic, stating that this absolute beatdown was basically carved in stone from minute one. He was always going to be the apex predator here. But then he casually whispers, "Oh, by the way, I am already right behind you." Hai tries to spin around, but she is way too slow. In that terrifying microsecond, Saul completely unleashes his overwhelming aura. A suffocating invisible shockwave violently flattens the area. Witnessing this god-tier flex, the leader actually bursts into happy tears, convinced his overpowered big bro has finally swooped in to save his life. Hai, heavily hyperventilating, screams at Saul, demanding to know how he wields such ridiculously broken stats. Wiping out her shadow giant should be mathematically impossible, but Saul does not even bother giving her a straight answer. Instead, he hits her with a chillingly calm question. "Why are you so desperate for that bounty cash?" Hai scoffs, trying to mask her panic. She bluntly admits it is seed money to launch her brand new guild, though she shamelessly adds that a fat percentage is going straight into her personal bank account. Because honestly, who says no to free loot? Right on cue, her eyes glow as she dangerously reboots her shadow skills. A toxic pitch-black liquid shadow viciously erupts straight out of the dirt right under Saul's boots. Within 2 seconds flat, the entire battleground morphs into a deadly dark swamp. Hai bursts into maniacal laughter, confidently declaring that Saul is permanently trapped. With his health bar rapidly draining, she guarantees he will be completely deleted in less than 5 seconds. Saul's health points start violently crashing, taking minus 300 damage per second, but the main character just casually takes one step forward, and literally just walks right out of the death trap like it is a gentle puddle. He looks dead at Hai, chillingly, noting that her little party trick is cute, but way too weak to even put a scratch on his armor. Without dropping that terrifyingly icy tone, he asks her if she has any actual ultimate moves left in her arsenal. The girl violently freezes, visibly sweating, and utterly terrified now. Meanwhile, Saul's mind races back to her previous confession. He instantly connects the dots. She is trying to establish the legendary Sea of Chi Guild, the exact same powerhouse guild that dominated the server before his regression. In his past life, that snake Alexander only leveled up so ridiculously fast because he heavily leached off the Sea of Chi Guild, aggressively swiping his credit card to hoard all the top-tier grinding resources. With that insane realization, Saul instantly locks in his master plan. He confidently announces that he is taking her execution off the menu. He drops 2 ultimatums. Option 1, he will literally double the massive funding she needs to launch her dream guild. But in exchange, her entire crew officially belongs to him. Option 2, way more straightforward. He violently speedruns her straight back to the respawn point right here, right now. Hai is street smart enough to read the terrifying room. She does not even blink. She aggressively slams the accept button on option 1 to save her own skin. Saul gives a satisfied nod, ordering her to vanish from his sight. He promises to wire the heavy funds later, strongly advising her to invest it smartly, into building the ultimate syndicate, and he strictly mandates she renames it the High Clouds Guild. With the savage contract sealed, Saul pivots and coolly walks off into the distance. Staring at his back, the terrified girl quietly prays he actually keeps his heavy promise. A few heartbeats later, Saul crouches next to the battered leader, casually tossing him a legendary healing potion. Federico aggressively chugs the glowing liquid. In a matter of literal seconds, his broken health bar maxes out, restoring him to 100%. Every single fatal wound flawlessly erases itself, like magic. Saul then smoothly mentions he has one final hardcore mission for him, and Federico instantly accepts, fully hyped and ready to risk it all for his boss. Finally, Saul sharply shifts his deadly gaze toward the cruel king boss, who is still helplessly chained under his absolute control. He casually mentions it is time to take out the trash. A wicked ear-to-ear grin stretches across Federico's face. Stepping right up to the cruel king, he crouches down to his level. The ultimate trash talk begins. He mockingly asks where all that tough guy energy went. Then his terrifying aura flares to life. The merciless beatdown starts. Between bone-crushing strikes, he delivers a chilling warning. Never ever dare to even look at his brother again. As the brutal punishment drags on, a glowing blue screen suddenly pops up. The system announces a massive rank up. He just skyrocketed from 26th place straight to number 22 on the leaderboards. Moments later, a system warning flashes in his vision. He has been forcibly logged out after ripping off his virtual reality mask. Saul blinks at the clock in absolute disbelief. 15 straight hours of grinding, but to him, every single second was a massive win. His master plan is finally coming together, and his next move is locked in. Tomorrow, he is making a beeline. Straight for Roy City. He plans to power level like crazy there. But his real mission, finding a glitch or loophole to drag his sister into the game. If they grind side by side, their leveling speed will literally double. A wild thought also crosses his mind. Should he hit up that mysterious mage he bumped into earlier? But without a rock-solid strategy, he pushes the idea aside. That side quest can wait for now. After all, real-world boss fights are calling his name. With killer focus, he grabs his phone and dials Pechi Player. He summons him immediately because things are about to get serious. They have some heavy corporate warfare to discuss. Barely a minute passes before a loud knock echoes through the room. The door swings open, revealing a literal mountain of muscle. Enter Pechi Player, an absolute unit of a man. He is Saul's most fiercely loyal dog, a hulking giant whose mere presence suffocates the room, cutting right to the chase. Saul orders him to dig into some highly classified dirt. He needs every single scrap of evidence, exposing the shady underground deals run by Alexander's lackeys. And he makes one thing crystal clear. He wants those receipts yesterday. Taking in the demands, Pechi secretly questions his boss's sanity. Why won't he just give up? But our main character has zero time for doubt. He drops the temperature in the room to freezing. One single icy death glare is all it takes. The effect is instant. The 6'3" behemoth of a man actually starts shaking in his boots. Without wasting a breath, he bows at a perfect 90-degree angle, swearing absolute success. He will not fail. His master Saul does not even flinch. He just casually lifts his mug, taking a slow, arrogant sip of coffee. He calmly drops a massive truth bomb. This is just the tutorial phase. The real bloodshed has not even started yet. The next morning, Saul is suiting up like a true boss. Sophia watches him totally confused. Seeing him dripping in tailored clothes, she asks what the special occasion is. With zero hesitation, he announces he is crashing the board meeting. Sophia's face instantly lights up like a Christmas tree. She tackles him into a massive hug, almost crying because her badass brother is finally back in action. She brings up the recent corporate disaster and how those greedy executives actually handed the interim CEO crown to Alexander. Saul does not bat an eye. He is already 3 steps ahead of them. Board members like Uncle Chi and Amber, they sold their souls to Alexander ages ago. That is exactly why this toxic corruption has been festering in the shadows. But to shield his little sister from the darkness, he gives her a gentle head pat. He plays it off as a simple routine checkup, but in reality, he is going to give them a terrifying wake-up call. The true king is still breathing perfectly healthy and ready to reclaim his throne. Hearing his dark, commanding tone, a genuine shiver of fear runs down Sophia's spine. Fast forward to the gleaming corporate headquarters. A high-stakes board meeting is in full swing. Alexander is running the show aggressively, pushing his shady new project. He desperately needs those votes to lock in his power. Right on cue, his corrupted pawns, Uncle Chi and Amber, instantly fall in line. Following their toxic lead, a wave of spineless executives raise their hands too. Inside, Alexander is screaming with absolute victory. His filthy bribes to Amber and Uncle Chi were worth every single penny. In mere days, they successfully brainwashed the old guard. With the majority vote completely in the bag, Alexander smugly declares the project will launch next week. But wait, just as he tastes victory, a bald man slowly raises his hand. His calm voice cuts through the tension, stating he has not voted yet. The unexpected objection hits Alexander like a truck. Pissed off, he glares into the dark corner of the boardroom. He completely missed the massive shadow sitting there. It is Uncle Hai, an absolute boss with a deadly aura. A towering figure with a face carved from stone. Alexander barks at him, demanding his vote right now. Uncle Hai doesn't even flinch. He coldly drops his vote against the project and doesn't sugarcoat his reasoning for a single second. He calls Alexander out for acting completely unhinged. This garbage proposal would absolutely tank the company's reputation, invite massive legal nightmares, and completely spit in the face of Saul's original master plans. Hai lays down a brutal warning. If they push this through, the entire empire is going to crumble. Alexander snaps back instantly. He aggressively doubles down, swearing this move will bring in unimaginable profits, and trashing Saul's old strategies as completely washed up. In his eyes, they are standing at a do-or-die crossroads, and they need a flawless victory. He shoots Uncle Hai a lethal glare, handing him 2 dead-end options: fall in line or get the hell out of the boardroom. But the old wolf refuses to be intimidated. Uncle Hai just glares right back, planting himself firmly in his seat like an immovable mountain. Right on cue, Amber slithers into the conversation to play peacemaker. She drops a passive-aggressive hint, telling Hai to act with a little more grace, especially at his age. Then she casually drops the hammer. By the book, the vote is already 7-1 in favor, which technically means Alexander's crazy project gets the green light. But just when these snakes think they've won, a chilling voice slices through the room, completely shutting it down. Every single head violently snaps toward the door. Alexander breaks into a cold sweat, muttering under his breath about why Saul is here. The heavy mahogany doors swing open, revealing Sophia, pushing Saul's wheelchair straight into the lion's den. Radiating pure boss energy, Saul casually scans the terrified executives and drops a devastatingly calm remark. As the actual chairman, he figured it was about time he crashed his own board of directors meeting. Alexander instantly slaps on a painfully fake smile, pretending he's thrilled to see him while Amber desperately tries to diffuse the suffocating tension. She flatters him, cooing about how wonderful it is to have him back, and practically begs him to go back to resting while they run the show. But Saul isn't buying her poison. He just shakes his head. With a chillingly calm voice, he explains his health is bouncing back, and honestly, he just missed his favorite hypocrites. But then he drops the ultimate flex. He politely reminds these clowns that he still holds absolute veto power. With just one sentence, he completely hijacks the entire meeting and effortlessly crushes Alexander's project into dust. Uncle Chi's face turns purple with sheer rage, ready to explode. But Amber flashes him a dead-eyed warning to shut his mouth. They exchange a venomous knowing glance. Meanwhile, Alexander is practically boiling alive, but swallows his pride, choking out that he absolutely respects Saul's wishes. Yeah, right. Saul's piercing gaze sees right through his pathetic act. Alexander is seething, which is exactly what our main character wanted. But Saul knows he is walking a razor's edge. He can't just go full goblin mode yet. He has to play forward chess right now. This entire corporate war is a massive minefield, because until he manages to fully sink his overpowered game stats into the real world, he doesn't have the firepower to wipe these traitors off the map. His enemies' roots run deep, tangled together in a toxic web of corruption. If he shows his hand too early, they will rip him apart while he's still stuck in this cursed wheelchair. So he flawlessly plays the game. He locks eyes with Alexander and feeds him a sweet lie about trusting his skills. But he draws a hard line in the sand. That project is dead on arrival. It completely ruins his master blueprint. Whatever sneaky trick Alexander tries next, Saul promises to put it under a microscope before stamping any approvals. Deep down, our boy knows the grim reality. Uncle Hai is his only true ally in this viper's nest, so he keeps his killing intent completely hidden. Right before dipping out, he casually drops a threat that he will be popping in randomly, just to keep them on their toes, and tells them to carry on. With that mic drop, he rolls out. The second the door shuts, Amber slithers right up to Alexander. When he finally looks up, her eyes are burning with pure malice. It is a silent, deadly command that practically screams for blood. She wants Saul permanently erased from the picture. Alexander instantly reads the room. For him, that wicked glare means only one thing. The gloves are officially off. Cut to later, sulking in his luxurious office. He is completely losing his mind, obsessing over how flawless his takeover was going. He had the entire company in the palm of his hand until that cripple crashed. The party Amber, running out of patience, hisses that the clock is loudly ticking. If they want to claim the throne, they have to drown their hesitation in absolute ruthlessness. Alexander grips his desk, admitting that launching another hit on Saul is insanely risky. He is terrified that their prey is already catching on, especially since Saul's mysterious puppet chief player just locked down his mansion and the hospital with military-grade security. Despite the terrifying odds, he makes a dark vow to put Saul in the grave. But before he fights the final boss, a pesky side quest needs to be erased. The scene aggressively cuts. Uncle Hai is cruising down a quiet highway, totally off guard, when out of nowhere, a sleek black car swerves right into his blind spot. The tinted window rolls down, revealing the cold steel of a hitman's gun. Pure adrenaline floods the scene. In a split second before Hai can even brace for impact, his loyal driver draws his own piece and fires a ruthless headshot right at the assassin. The enemy vehicle swerves wildly to unleash a second attack, but Hai is completely blind to the real danger. A massive 18-wheeler is barreling straight toward them. A devastating crash is milliseconds away. Milliseconds before the fatal crash, Jay's driver pulls off a clutch maneuver. He wipes out the remaining hitmen, drifting out of the danger zone to narrowly escape a fiery death. As the dust settles, Jay sits paralyzed, struggling to process the absolute chaos. The harsh truth hits him like a truck. Alexander actually sent a hit squad to erase him. Yet here he is still breathing, and it is all thanks to Saul. He also owes his life to Peachy, who swooped in at the exact right moment. Peachy breaks it down for him. Saul orchestrated this entire rescue mission to shield him from the ambush. Hearing this, a blazing fury ignites in Jay's chest. He grinds his teeth together, spitting out vicious curses aimed straight at Alexander. Meanwhile, Peachy Player fires off a quick text to Saul, confirming that his uncle has been secured and is completely out of harm's way. Getting that notification, Saul gives a silent nod. A cold smirk creeps onto his face as he mutters, "It is time to dive back in and finish the job." Without missing a beat, he boots up the system. His avatar materializes in the gritty streets of Roy City. Right now, only one other player is hovering in the zone, and the region's threat level is flashing a toxic red. Unfazed Saul instantly mutes all the annoying system pings. He is locked in. His entire focus shifts to a critical time-sensitive quest. Just as he predicted, Alexander has already logged back into the server, and the massive iron gates of the city are completely locked down. Running through his mental database, Saul remembers there are exactly 2 ways to breach the walls. Option 1 involves going full stealth mode, sneaking around to the dark side of Roy City, and navigating the brutal wildlands. Hidden out there is a tiny glitch-like gap where rogue players can squeeze through, but that path is pure nightmare fuel. The area is crawling with aggressive mountain trolls ranging from level 20 to 30. Taking this shortcut would mean entirely skipping the main campaign. Then there is option 2, playing right into the game's official lore. Every single night, a terrifying demon horde lays siege to the fortress. The player's job is to back up the NPC general and hold the line. Surviving this bloodbath grants free access into Roy City, under the disguise of a city guard. Naturally, Saul locks in on this route. Plus, the hidden perks are just too insanely good to pass up. Clearing this massive raid quest does not just open the gates, it unlocks a super rare hidden map, exposing the actual demon breeding grounds, and showering him with god-tier loot. We are talking about the completely overpowered Golden Demon Guard armor set. That is his ultimate milestone, before pushing his level higher. Suddenly, a glowing blue system prompt flashes before his eyes. Boom. Every single one of his evolution skills has finally come off cooldown. That means only one thing. It is time to flex some serious power, break the game's limits, and tap into some absolutely busted new abilities. Without hesitation, Saul targets his basic bronze ring for a straight-up diamond tier upgrade. With this massive buff, the power gap between him and the rest of the server will become unreachable. He is setting himself up to totally monopolize the upcoming drop pool. Wasting 0 seconds, he summons his spectral familiars and violently smashes the evolve button on the interface. But nothing happens. Dead silence. For a split second, he pauses, analyzing the glitch. This greedy piece of pixelated jewelry only has 2 fixed tiers. It goes straight from bronze to diamond, skipping all the intermediate levels. That massive jump in rarity is probably why the system is lagging, refusing to trigger the evolution immediately. Still, he does not back down. He forces the command a second time. Suddenly, a sharp, terrifying crack echoes from the ring. The gravity of the gamble hits him instantly. If the RNG fails and the item shatters before hitting diamond status, he will take a catastrophic loss. And in a high-level death zone like this city, walking around nerfed is basically suicide. The system shows he has exactly one last evolution charge remaining. He has to keep his head ice cold. If he pulls off this crazy roll, he will literally never have to grind for basic materials ever again. It is a massive all-or-nothing bet. Taking a deep, steadying breath, he triggers his final, desperate evolution attempt. The metal heavily fractures in a blinding flash of light. Then, the flawless brilliance of a diamond-tier item bursts forth. The system rewards flood his screen instantly. Saul instantly bags over 50 raw luck stats, but the real prize is the broken passive skill he just unlocked. A flat 100% boost to his total drop rate. It gets better. Any boss monster level 30 or higher is now hard-coded to drop guaranteed gold-tier loot. And to top off this insane power spike, his in-game currency generation is permanently doubled. A rush of pure adrenaline courses through his veins. Betting it all was the absolute right play. The prep phase is officially over. All that is left to do is play the waiting game until midnight. The exact second the digital clock strikes 12 a. Horrifying endless swarm of demonic monsters crashes toward the city walls. Saul is already perfectly positioned on a high mountain ridge, looking down like a predator, stalking its prey. He is chilling in the shadows, waiting for the perfect window to crash the party. Down below, the Roy City, defense forces are braced for absolute slaughter. The NPC general roars the command, and the frontline troops brace their shields. The demon wave slams into them like a tsunami. Scanning the horde, most of the mobs are hovering around level 20, but towering in the back is a massive level 30 raid boss. Watching from afar, Saul is practically drooling over the massive EXP pool. He cannot wait to vacuum up all that premium loot and feed it directly into his evolution system. Drawing his blade, the general charges headfirst into the meat grinder. The cinematic battle kicks off in a spray of pixels and blood. It is super rare to witness such an intensely scripted, chaotic war between non-playable characters. But Saul knows the city's defense algorithm can hold the line without him. The way he just has to chill on the sidelines, wait for the boss's HP to drop to 1%, completely kill-steal the monster, and effortlessly swipe all the server glory for himself. Down in the blood-soaked trenches, the general is relentlessly carving through wave after wave of demonic trash mobs. Demons drop like flies. Saul sends them straight back to the underworld in a blazing symphony of thunder, steel, and lightning. It honestly looks like he has trained his entire life for this exact bloodbath. But suddenly, A panicked scream shatters his focus. Saul whips his head around. His stomach drops. The absolute unit of a general just took a devastating blow. The veteran warrior crashes into the dirt. Another NPC shrieks his name in pure terror, and it hits Saul like a freight train. This timeline is totally broken. This is absolutely not how the script went in his past life. Cold sweat drips down his face. If this battle goes south, the butterfly effect is going to ruin everything. He has zero choice but to step up. If the general gets wiped out here, the main storyline is completely doomed, and all future events hinge entirely on this guy surviving. Without skipping a single beat, the main character commands his spectral shadows to strike. They lock onto the massive demon looming right over the fallen general. Wham! The level 30 monstrosity tanks a brutal bone-crushing hit. But before the beast can even process the pain, Saul goes in for the kill. He cleanly slices off its arm instantly, tanking its HP to rock bottom. The general turns around, totally flabbergasted. Who on earth are you? But Saul just smirks, stepping right up, to face the entire demonic horde solo. He casually snaps his fingers. Right in front of everyone's eyes, his phantom army unleashes hell. 7 piercing arrows of blinding starfire lock onto every single demon. The fiery barrage rains down from above like pure divine judgment, and vaporizes every last monster in a single jaw-dropping strike. The general is just staring, absolutely speechless. Did this random kid just solo a whole demon wave like it was nothing? Blown away by this insane flex. The general hands Saul a glowing treasure chest as a massive thank you. He pops the lid open, and his jaw practically hits the floor at his insane RNG. Resting inside is a dazzling golden stone, an absolute god-tier item that can literally transfer in-game stats directly into the real world. It is the legendary warrior's heart. Holding it, Saul gets this wild rush of adrenaline. It feels exactly like he just speedran. The absolute worst and grindiest chapters of this whole city arc, basically hitting a massive skip button on all the nightmare level challenges.